is failing me. So hopefully I'm able to hold out for the whole night. But hey, Brad, I'll lean on you if things go tits up. But
I'm here if you
hey,
need me.
here comes the part of the show where I say, Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of February 2025, and is once again that very special time in the month where we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy, Brad. How's it going, Brad?
It's going great. Apologies for the sound you might have just heard there. I just accidentally dropped my entire pile of Blu-rays. But luckily the room is carpeted, so we should be fine. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining me as always, Brad. Dear listeners and hopefully viewers, if you're not familiar, Brad, as you may have noticed on his name tag there, has his own podcast, the Cinema Speak podcast. It's a wonderful podcast, far better than my own.
No.
It drops
Don't
on Thursdays of each week. I was
don't
on
believe
it
in
this last
people.
week. But before we get started, I'd like to give Brad an opportunity to maybe share some inside baseball. Like, I don't know if this is putting you on the spot in the bad way, Brad, but are you going to be doing Oscar coverage like day of or anything special, or are you just going to have it as part of your weekly podcast?
It's always just kind of been a thing we've talked about, like within the normal episode that comes out that next week. But I've always wanted to do something with the Oscars. I just never have come up with the gumption or just the idea to do it. So I'm all for a suggestion because I would like to do something with it. Obviously, I do watch it every year. But yeah, there'll be some sort of recap on my show at the very least.
Okay, well, you are live stream capable now.
That's true.
You did do your Vinegar Syndrome sale as a live screen share broadcast, and I thought it was terrific. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So if you have the time, or like you say, if you build up the gumption, maybe give it a shot. I would watch that out of it. But dear listeners and hopefully viewers, if you're not familiar with what we're about to do here this evening, a Tales from the Shelf episode is essentially Brad and I, our excuse to talk about and play show and tell with our respective movie collections. Both Brad and I own quite a lot of physical media, quite a lot of DVDs, Blu-ray, and 4K discs. And as such, it's nice to have a monthly excuse to swap some stories about them and talk about them a little bit. And each month we try to have like kind of a unifying theme to guide the discussion ever so slightly. Usually we go off the rails entirely, but this month, being as it is the month of love, it's February, Valentine's Day, all that horse shit. We're going to be talking about romantic reels. So we're going to be talking about romance in cinema. And that's going to be a very, very, very loose category because goddamn, I do not have any romantic films, Brad.
I know this guy's got at least one because I called out one of them. I'm like, well, obviously you're gonna grab this one.
Yeah,
so
no, I have movies that feature, I don't know, emotional connections and romance. If you really, really boil it down, you can spin almost any narrative to have some sort of romantic element to it in some fashion from a certain point of view. But what I'm saying basically is I have very few like purely like romance driven stories, like purely romance driven films. Like I have exactly, I think, one rom-com that I pulled, obviously, and maybe we'll talk about. But the rest of it is going to involve a lot of nuance, a lot of twisting things and kind of bullshitting my way through the topic. So, as is customary, though, I'm going to toss Brad directly in the path of the oncoming bus and ask, "Hey, Brad, how about you be the first person to share one of your romantic reel picks?"
Oh, well, I would love to. I said we gotta do movies. We gotta do love movies. Love movies. I'm still on the love, and I was
WNBC.
I was surprised, but I said I was surprised you went for it, to be honest. But I said, all right, let's do it. So my first one here, I've got Massage Parlor Murders, which I was like, if we're gonna do a softcore porn episode, then I have to pull off Massage Parlor Murders. This is what you meant by love movies, right? Like these Vinegar Syndrome titles. And no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I've never even seen that movie. I don't know how much nudity there is in there, but um, no, if we're talking romance, let's go with an actual romantic movie. One movie that I love, and a little bit of a different romance. It is Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread with Daniel Day-Lewis. It's different as a romance in that it's a weird kind of movie because when I first saw it, I didn't totally know where it was going, which I guess is a good thing. And I didn't totally know what kind of romance or what kind of love story it was going to be about until really the final scene of the movie. Like, I feel like it really takes the final scene to like hammer home what their relationship actually is, what it entails, because it's a little bit of a um a little bit of a, like a a domination sort of relationship, but like in a good way. And you don't know uh his annoyance with her. You don't know if it's something that he actually likes. You don't know if he likes how strong-willed and independent she is at first, or if he doesn't like it. And it kind of really um watching it the first time, I was like, this could definitely end a bunch of different ways. It could end in a very depressing, sort of tragic way. But ultimately, I think the ending is pretty amazing. So, really different kind of romance, but I mean, it's Paul Thomas Anderson, just expert filmmaker, and was going to be Daniel Day Lewis's final performance, but I do believe he is coming out of retirement for, I think, his son's movie. I think is that correct? Have we heard confirmation on this? Is this
That is news to me, but wow, that is a big fucking deal. He's kind of the most big fucking deal that there is when it comes to like big name acting talent that who works once every 5 years. That kind of acting talent. There's very few of those out there, but he is a prodigious talent, and I that is a fantastic film in a lot of respects. It actually came up in conversation between me and Kyle just the other day. I think we were singing its praises about how unusual it is and how like unmarketable it is.
Yeah.
I was like, what even? How would you advertise this? And yet, both of us ended up seeing it. You ended up buying it and watching it.
Yep.
Um, and it's a difficult movie to like neatly package, like neatly arrange in your mind in terms of like what exactly it is or what it's meant to be. Aside from like you say, when like you get to the resolution and it kind of explains it, kind of lays things out to you more concretely. Very complex film, very complex characterization, very deeply layered characterizations in it. But goddamn, it's beautiful, and the performances are extraordinary in a lot of respects.
Yeah. Amazing score by the Radiohead guy. What's his name?
Oh, that's all you, bud.
Johnny Wood. That was embarrassing. Almost said the drummer of Radiohead. Whoops. But yeah, I just love, like, you're watching it and this couple, like, they're in this relationship, but you don't know totally their intentions this whole movie, and they're kind of like nipping at each other, and you don't know where they're going to end up. And um it's kind of one of the things where, like, once you see that ending and rewatch it, it kind of recontextualizes everything in their relationship. And I think it's a pretty phenomenal movie. I mean, it's hard to say, in terms of Paul Thomas Anderson, where to put it, because the guy's got so many incredible movies. But um, it's definitely up there. And yeah, I love it. It looks amazing too. I think it was, maybe, I don't know if it was the first or second movie that PTA shot himself. Um, but I remember there was little bit of controversy when that happened, because I think something like he couldn't be nominated for an Oscar for it because he wasn't. I don't think anybody's actually credited as a cinematographer on it, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but yeah, but it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad I went on my way to watch it. That there's still a few PTA films out there that I really do need to go out of my way to watch. I was actually surprised. Kyle told me he really enjoyed Licorice Pizza. Um, I know that was a bit more of a divisive film in his catalog, but Kyle really liked it.
Yeah, it was good, but I don't know, that I've only seen that one once, but it didn't, like, totally connect with me like a lot of his other ones have. Like, I would say there I don't wanna say he's hit or miss, but, Inherent Vice I liked, but didn't totally hit for me. That one's a little more, like, intentionally, tough to kind of grasp. So, that one I think could use a rewatch for sure. Licorice Pizza was good, it just didn't I don't know. I remember hearing some really high praise for it when it first came out, and it didn't blow me away, but I would like to see it again.
Yeah, both of the titles you mentioned there, Inherent Vice, also kind of a divisive one.
Mhm.
Like in terms of staying power, especially like Licorice Pizza is not one that I hear get brought up in conversation very much after its
Yeah.
debut year. Kind of
Yep.
same deal with Inherent Vice. Like a lot of it doesn't help that a lot of the talent in that movie have done quite a lot since then, and it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. But in general, like we say it tons of times on the podcast, like Paul Thomas Anderson's a magnificent filmmaker in so many ways, and Phantom Thread was one that for some reason I was really hyped about. Like just Daniel Day Lewis working with him again, especially I think it was being touted as like his final performance. Like that's
Yeah.
enough of a selling point alone. I guess that's how you would advertise the movie. Is like, hey, this is the last time you get Daniel Day Lewis. Might want to show up for it. But
But
yeah, I
I
really
looked it
enjoyed
up.
it.
He is coming back. It is his son who is making a movie.
It's
So,
kind of beautiful in a lot of ways. Like if you're going to come back, that's a pretty cool reason to come back.
yeah, I agree, but it also does feel like it's like he's like, "Man, I said I retired. I can't come back." He's like, "How if it's like it's more like thinking about it like you're thinking about it like, "Oh, he wanted to stay retired, but he's like, if I'm gonna come out of retirement, it'll only be for my son," and that's pretty sweet.
Hmm.
I'm thinking cynically and thinking he's like, "Man, I kinda wish I hadn't retired. I kinda wanna make another movie. How can I come back into it and not make a complete ass of myself?"
Like he already had the itch. He needed to find his reason.
Well, and I'm looking here, and to be fair, this is the Google AI overview, so I don't take this with a grain of salt. But it does say that the two Daniel Day Lewis and his son wrote the script together. So DDL is like, I got to get out of retirement, so he's writing this script, and he's like, "Hey, son, do you want to make a movie? Come on, we'll say it's all your idea. I just need to make another movie, please. I'm born to act. I'm a genius. I can't just sit on this talent."
I mean, it could be for a number of reasons. Like one, he's got the itch again. Every fighter's got to retire 3 times before they're really done. Um,
Yep.
Another could be like I don't know, promotional concerns where it's like, so your dad's really cool. Your name don't mean shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we need some juice behind this production. Could you get DDL in on this? could you could you ring up Papa on the phone? Maybe get him involved.
That would be probably if I had to pick, that would be the most logical your reason, I think.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Like
Remember that
I finally
retirement?
made it, but there's like one little problem.
Yeah.
It's like fine.
Yeah. But I mean it is interesting too because I don't know if he has like some sort of like maybe he's got a vineyard somewhere, but I would think none of his movies were that big of hits where he, made that much money where he could live off it for the rest of his life, you know what I mean? He's not Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I don't think of him as being like a multimillionaire or anything, and he worked so infrequently, and
Yeah.
and the amount of like research and time you would put towards each individual role, it's like you like, do you get like a stipend or something to prep for these roles? Like, I have to imagine probably, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think of him as having like a big giant mansion or anything like that.
How is this guy making money? How does he have money?
Well, if he's anything like Tom Cruise, he's collecting skills and talents that he can parlay into actual like professions and actual craft. Like for instance, Tom Cruise can hold his breath for a really long fucking time. Tom Cruise is also an expert with a handgun. Tom Cruise also knows how to jump out of airplanes. He also knows how to ride motorcycles. These are learned skills that you
Yeah.
carry with you throughout the remainder of your life. Daniel Day-Lewis knows how to make shoes.
He can drill for oil.
He can drill for oil. He can chop down trees. He did that Lincoln shit. Like
Yep.
he's got skills. He has craft
Okay.
skills.
All right. Okay.
that's
All right.
that's probably what he's been doing. He's probably been making shoes and chopping wood.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I'm into it. I'm into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's his next movie. Maybe he'll do some weird meta shit or something. Like maybe he'll do a movie with Nicolas Cage and they can make a sequel to that one he did with Pedro Pascal or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
I would watch that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd watch anything with Daniel Day-Lewis in it at this point.
I mean, that's kind of he's that kind of entity in the film world where it's like if he does something, it's worth a shot. You know, it's worth a look just because he works so infrequently and he's always so great at everything.
Yep.
All right, so I suppose it's my turn, and I've kind of been stalling because I have no fucking clue where to start with my picks because they all suck.
No Daniel Day-Lewis over there. My Left Foot. No. Is that a love
No, I
story?
don't. I don't actually think I own any Daniel Day-Lewis films, which is kind of embarrassing.
Oh.
I've had my eye on The Boxer. I think is a Shout Select title. I've seen it on sale for like ridiculously low prices, and I've had my eye on it because of that. Because I heard it was very good. I remember my parents liking it, but I actually haven't seen it, so it would be a blind buy. But no, I don't think I have any DDL, as you call him, on my shelf. But let's go with something that was brought up in the Red Cow Arcade / Red Cow Entertainment Discord. Not actually something I really want to talk about all that much, but hey, I was incentivized to bring it up. So hey, if that person's here, which I actually don't think they are, I may as well bring it up to no one in particular. So I have in my hand here a 4K, a 25th anniversary 4K, which I think has been brought up enough times on the show that I believe I know that you have a slipcase and I do not, which hurts in my soul a little bit. I have here Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola of Megalopolis fame in recent years. This film is utterly gorgeous. It is as far as I understand, pretty straightforward, like pretty straight, like adhering to the source material adaptation of the Bram Stoker novel of the same name. They went to great lengths to preserve several elements in trying to do a straight adaptation in the film version that were often overlooked or discarded in other film iterations of the Dracula story, which of course has been replicated across every medium that exists essentially so many times. But this was a really, really, really big deal release at the time. I believe it was 1994. I'm just going off the top of my head, so sorry if I'm wrong. Francis Ford Coppola in 1994 still had quite a lot of juice. His name still carries weight these days, but he's had enough misses since the 90s that it's just not the same. It's not the same reputation that he carried.
Nothing but misses since the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, Godfather 3 was kind of the start, but
Yeah.
he's had a lot of misses in the past few decades.
Yeah.
His best work was done prior to this one. But what this one has going for it is its aesthetic beauty, visually, audio visual. I can't pronounce the name of the composer. I know it. I can see it in my head. It's like Wojciech. I have no idea how to say this man's name. May even be a woman for all I know. I apologize, but their score for this film is operatic. A lot of choir usage. It's big. Everything in this film is big. What I mean by that is it's an acquired taste. It doesn't work for everybody. And what I'm alluding to here is that I watched this film, this romantic gothic horror film, with my fiance, and goddamn, she hated it.
Oh, boy.
she gives me shit for that to this day. She detests this film. No, both me and Kyle's wife also did not enjoy her viewing experience with this film, and actually, it told me it like hammered home some points about people and how they relate to art, how they relate to film and television. it kind of instilled in me this new understanding that's like, oh wow, people put way different amounts of weight into different things when it comes to how they take in a movie. Because for me, the audio visual whiz bang pow elements of this, it's like looking at a painting for me. Like I can just do that. I can eat with my eyes and my
Mhm.
ears and be happy with it. And then look at the acting performance of Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder and just laugh. Whereas someone like my fiance, she dialogue, story, character is what matters most to her. And so something like this that's not the best when it comes to all those elements just completely lost her. And the melodrama was just like hokey and just it just washed right over her, and she was like, I this does nothing for me. So for me, like I have a lot of nostalgia associated with this film, because I was there for the marketing associated with. I played the goddamn Super Nintendo game that was based on it. Um,
Well, I didn't know that.
yeah, actually, it was a multi-platform release. Virtually every video game console that existed in 1994 has a Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's a Sega CD, there's a Genesis, there's a Super Nintendo.
Wow.
Uh, there's, I think the Sega CD one has like really shitty, grainy video clips from the movie in it. Worth a look if you're interested, Brad, because there's a particular moment in the movie when Keanu Reeves is being attacked by the brides of Dracula. There's that one like weird oblong like close up of him going. "Argh!" That's the game over screen in the game, Brad. It cuts to that every time you die in the
So
game.
they had sense of humor with it when they made it.
I think so. I think they. Well, I mean, all of those movie tie-in games from back in the day were like horribly rushed productions.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably just were just like fuck it, whatever, get it out the door. But yeah, in terms of romance, which is I guess what we're supposed to be talking about here today, the score actually I want to say is one of the stronger elements of conveying that aspect of the story. A highly romantic, highly indulgent, and melodramatic score that I think better than the acting and the script sells its intentions quite a lot more so. It's supposed to be this like eternal romance, this like romance across ages and generations and bloodlines, where Dracula has a reincarnation of his lover manifest hundreds of years after his original lover committed suicide and was condemned by God, basically. So it's Gary Oldman lusting after Winona Ryder, and he's successful. It works out, kind of. At least, like, that's the implication, anyways, that he does kind of like walk away with, not literally, but like a piece of her heart in some respect by the time you get to the credits.
The guy gets the girl. That's how you want every one of these rom-coms to end. Well, let me ask you because I'm pretty sure that element is. I can't think of any other movie adaptations that use that reincarnation element. Is that anywhere in the source material that you know, or
You know, I've never actually read the novel, so I couldn't tell you if it's a one to one, like if it's an element taken directly from the novel. Um, but you're right; that is not something that you see that I can recall seeing replicated across other
yeah? Because
adaptations.
I do like that element. I think that is a cool touch.
Yeah, and in particular, there's that beautiful line of dialogue that it's very romantic. It's very flowery. That I've crossed oceans of time for you. It's like that's a I'll get you wet. Shit.
Oh
and
yeah, my
it's
heart's
a good
beating right
scene
now.
too, as well. But yeah, it's a deeply flawed movie in some respects. Like I said, Keanu and Winona don't really work for me. But holy shit, it is one of those kitchen sink experiences when it comes to the audio visual elements. Like every trick in the book is implemented when it comes to visual effects. There's a lot of in camera effects that are done. The editing of it is also like extraordinarily ambitious in a lot of respects. And it's to me, I do think of it as akin to like going to a museum or something. It is something you look at. It is something you listen to, and you feel things, but not you're not so much fixated on the details of what words are being said. It's more it's you hear the melody not you don't fixate on the lyrics. It's one of
Yeah.
those. It's like a song like that, which again says a lot about my character, because that's like when I listen to music with my fiance, that honestly that's what it is a lot of times. Is I'm a melody guy more so than a lyrics guy, and she's kind of the opposite. So in my household, only one of us likes this movie, but I like it a lot. And also it's important because it inspired the is largely, I think, responsible for kind of renewing interest in the universal horror catalog of monsters and creatures. I know the Jack Nicholson Wolf movie, I think, came out before this. Actually, may have been. I don't know if it was before or after, actually, but I know it was relatively around the same time. Can confirm Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was put into production probably as a result of the success of this.
Hmm.
So I have to thank this movie for that movie's existence, because holy shit, Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein is goddamn hilarious. Have you seen that one, Brad?
Oh yeah, I own it.
I should own that. I have it on DVD, but I think Arrow put out a 4K of it or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's it is a terrible movie in so
It's
many
not very
ways.
good. Yeah.
It is so good bad to me though. The melodrama in that movie is out of fucking control. And it tickles me in exactly the right way, where it's like they thought this was good.
Hmm.
They thought this was good. To me it just makes me laugh and laugh and laugh. But it's also kind of similar to this. Still nice to look at the very least, but holy shit, it is not a good movie.
Yeah. No.
Expensive looking too.
It's pretty bad, but I feel like some of Kenneth Branagh's stuff, like you kind of almost there's one movie of his that I watched not that long ago that I wasn't a fan of it, but it's like very over the top and melodramatic. It's called like Dead Again or something like that.
Oh, that the name escapes me, but I
Yeah,
really need to see his
Dead
Hamlet.
Again.
I've heard wonderful things about his Hamlet.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, he's an interesting filmmaker. He's
He is. I think so anyway.
Yeah. And he seems like a great guy. I love the guy.
He's a good interview. Like
Yeah.
he seems like an interesting fella. I like his style of production. I like that he's not afraid to go big. He's an interesting filmmaker and actor, and
Hmm.
he is not a Brett Ratner.
Nope.
Like he has an identifiable brand and style, and sometimes that's all you need. Like if there's some sort of personal flourish in there that does it for you, that's enough to give you, like, incentivize you to give it a shot.
Yep. Absolutely. But
All right.
good pick on that. I want to ask because that was a suggested title for me, not suggested by a person but by an entity. Because I do you use the blu-ray.com app, the My Movies app?
I do not. You've told me about it though.
You
I
got it.
have a manual spreadsheet that I use for cataloging my stuff.
It's good to have backups. I highly recommend keeping your spreadsheet, but you should take a weekend, get some White Lotus coffee creamer, go crazy, and go through and just download the app and scan all your QR codes. And because it's great because can go in the app and sort by genre, and I just clicked romance, and I was like, here we go, boom, 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 boom. I picked like 10 movies from that that
Oh, you
drop
cheating
down.
bastard!
It's
I had to do
easy.
that. I
It's
had to
easy.
sort this shit with my eyeballs.
Yeah, like I did it while I was at work today.
God damn.
I there's definitely some it didn't it's not perfect because I like look at my shelf and I'm like, oh, I didn't that one wasn't in there, that one wasn't in like it's not perfect, but it's a good start at least for this project we do.
Yeah, I mean, this was always going to be a tricky one for me because I just have so little to pick from. So I'm just gonna have to bullshit my way through most of this. But
Yeah.
we're off to a decent start. We
Okay.
got a
All right.
couple of good ones out the gate. So hey, Brad, I'm done with Dracula. How about we move on to your next romantic reel?
Well, how about I go with a movie, a pick that I just got in the mail this week. This is a new
Oh shit!
one, and it is a film that I just recently watched for the very first time, and I was blown away by it. And anybody who watches this film and thinks it's mediocre or boring, I think they're just out to lunch. I think they're out of their gourd. and it is James Ivory's The Remains of the Day with Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson, which I watched as part of my show's segment Movie Roulette, where we get a random movie assigned to us. Most of the time, it's a movie neither of us has seen. Sometimes it's a movie I've seen, but my co-host hasn't seen, and I had never seen this one. Never really, I mean, maybe heard of it, but I wasn't all that familiar with it. And I went into this movie, I was like, it's about a butler and, 1930s, 40s England. This is going to be a snooze fest. This is going to stink. And I was just blown away by this movie. The ideas, the performances, the direction. I thought it was great. And admittedly, it's not like, I would definitely say this fits love story in terms of what we're doing. But there are it's not just a pure romance. There are other ideas. But the whole thing is Anthony Hopkins plays this butler who works for this rich guy pre World War II, like right on the onset of World War II. And the guy ends up being like they're in England, but he ends up kind of almost being like a Nazi sympathizer. So there's like some ideas there of Anthony Hopkins still performing his duties while this guy is like slowly like inching like more and more towards like some really bad things, and like the idea of like how complicit are you if you don't do anything. There's ideas there, but anyway, the head housekeeper is played by Emma Thompson, and it's clear that Anthony Hopkins, even though he's committed to his job and he acts like he doesn't want a relationship, all he cares about is being the best butler he can be. That's all he cares about. It's clear as the movie goes on that he does have feelings for Emma Thompson, but because he's so committed to his job, he doesn't act on them until the movie's actually told in two parts. There's like future stuff or present day stuff, and then we're flashing back to the main plot of the 1940s or whatever, 1930s. Um, and so in the present day stuff, he's going to see her for the first time in like 2 decades and hoping that he can reestablish that connection with her that he failed to do while they were working together. And you're hoping that they can make it work, even though it's so many years later. And it's, the kind of idea of like not striking while the iron's hot, letting opportunity pass you by, whether it be love or, whatever it could be. But the idea of being maybe so committed to one thing that you let everything else in your life sort of fall by the wayside. And I think it's awesome movie. Like, for just being this like what I thought was going to be a stuffy British drama, I was completely blown away by it, and had to pick it up on 4K, put out by Sony Pictures. Thank you very much, Sony, for this great release. I can't wait to rewatch it.
Yeah. Who directed that one?
James Ivory.
Okay.
I he's done a bunch of other stuff, but I know him best for he wrote "Call Me by Your Name."
Okay.
And he won an Oscar for the screenplay for that. And I don't know if it might have been like his first Oscar. I mean, he's still alive, so hopefully he has many more coming his way. But knowing his age, it might be like that was kind of like his career. You know, here tip of the hat to all. You never won for Remains of the Day, even though it was a great film, and maybe you should have won for it. But we'll give you the screenplay as a sort of a career, um, you know, retrospective kind of thing. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, am I misremembering? Was that like a contentious rating that you gave it on your show, or the other person on the other end of that
Yeah.
conversation disagreed with you wholeheartedly?
Yeah, Matt was not a fan. He thought it was boring. He said the performances were mediocre. Now, keep in mind, it stars Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson. And he said the performances were mediocre. All right. Huh? Huh? One of the greatest actors of our generation right here. Huh? And Emma
Yeah,
Thompson, one of the greatest actresses of our generation. Two
I
great
was about to say
actresses.
she's not exactly a slouch.
No, no, they're both incredible in it. Anthony Hopkins especially.
Mhm.
But yeah, he he came out of it thinking exactly how I expected I was going to come out of it. Sort of like, it's a boring British drama. And um, I don't know. I just don't know if he give it the time of day, because this is why I really do think I give movies a fair shake, because I totally thought this was like, because this was, again, it was movie roulette, so I was required to watch this movie. I sat down. I did not want to watch this movie, and like, so this movie was actually working at a disadvantage. But I said, "All right, James Ivory, I want. Hopefully, you can tickle my ivories because I want this movie to be a banger." And he, even working at that disadvantage, he blew me away. So
Yeah, it started as an obligation and it became a pleasure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, actually, to connect things back to what I was saying about Dracula, about how I quite enjoy watching it. Like, I'm not going to say the romance is the strongest aspect of the movie, not by any means, but it's a film that I enjoy watching. Whereas my fiance finds almost no value in it whatsoever. I want to say that there's a very good chance that one, Matt just came at it from the wrong angle on the wrong day. Just wasn't in the mood for what it was giving him, and it just didn't work.
Hmm.
But then two, uh, romance and stories of that nature and stuff resonate with people for very different reasons. Like we all have different tendencies and different wavelengths that we operate on, and it could just be that that particular flavor of storytelling, that particular brand of romance, works for you in a way that doesn't work for him. Because I tease Brad about I may have coined the term, honestly, the fleeting romance.
Yeah, it definitely is in that subgenre, I would say. It definitely falls
It
into that subgenre.
not a one to one, like not on the nose, but there's elements of that. And I say I tease Brad because I'm not going to say the names of the movies because I there's a very good chance they'll come up today.
Well,
But
there's a few that were a little too obvious that I didn't even grab. I'll just say that. I've talked about them
okay,
before.
well, there's a trilogy of Richard Linklater
Yeah,
films. I
I
believe.
did not grab the Before trilogy. I was like,
Okay,
that's I've talked about that too many times.
oh, good call. Good call. We have gone over them many
Yep.
times. So, cat's out of the bag. The Before trilogy is something that is very near and dear to Brad. He loves those movies, and I have yet to see them, but I've heard Brad talk about them many, many times, and I've heard him talk about other romance films that have a certain. They fit into a kind of certain category where it's like a little bit of like a One Crazy Night type scenario, a little bit of a path not like road not taken kind of
Hmm.
vibe. Like Lost in Translation is also.
Yep.
I think you like that movie too, right?
Yep. Okay, well, that one I did grab, so I'll definitely. Although
Spoilers for Brad's future
I
picks.
think it
Lost in
does have a
Translation.
4K. I haven't bought the 4K yet, but still has Blu-ray.
I mean, it's got A Coppola's name on it. It'll come to it's most certainly on 4K,
Yeah.
if it's not already. But yeah, the remains of the day. Like to me, that sounds very charming. That sounds very sweet, especially the aspect of him having a commitment in the form of his duty or his job, what he perceives to be more valuable than what ultimately in the long run ends up being more valuable to him, but he failed to realize it in the moment. Personally, I find that very appealing. I can relate to that a lot.
Hmm.
I especially from like earlier stages of my life, I remember being that person. So to me, like everything you're saying about that movie, like if the performances are there, if the storytelling's there, that sounds delightful. That sounds really good to me. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't sound boring. That sounds like something I'd really be interested in.
And I mean, not to spoil the movie too much, because I highly recommend everybody checks it out. But there's a great scene that sort of like kind of encapsulates that idea. And there's a like this big party that the owner of this mansion, the guy that Anthony Hopkins works for, is throwing, and it's like they hype it up like it's this big deal. Like all these world leaders are going to be here. It's a huge like Anthony Hopkins is like the head butler, so he's telling everyone like we got to be on our game. Blah blah blah. And Anthony Hopkins' father is working there as a butler as well, because he was also a butler, and his father falls ill during the party, and the whole thing is his father is upstairs in bed, basically dying, and they keep like coming down and saying like, "Hey, Anthony Hopkins, your dad is not doing well," and he just goes, "Oh, thank you for the update," but he's still going around with his charcuterie tray because his dad's upstairs in his final moments, and he's more focused on he's committed to his duty, making sure this party goes off without a hitch. And it's a pretty heartbreaking scene.
I was about to say that's some drama. That's like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's George W. Bush at that reading at that school on 9/11. You
Yeah,
have
pretty
some
much.
place you ought to be,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. That's about right.
Too soon,
Yeah.
Brad? Too soon?
No, no, I mean, yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, I think even Anthony Hopkins kinda makes that same face that where, you know, you can
I
see
don't
kinda
know
like
what to
the
do.
color drain out of his face, but yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I would actually really like to see that. That sounds terrific. Like that just sounds like a really personally relatable story in a lot of respects, and it sounds like that kind of bittersweet romance that appeals to me, but I could totally see it being totally lost on people where it's like, what the fuck is the point of this? It's like
Yeah.
some people like, a steamy romance or something. Some people like a traditional rom-com where they have the meet cute, they get together, things are nice, things are not so nice, and then they're nice again. Like it's a very cozy format that a lot of people really like. To me, I tend to be more drawn in by the bittersweet. Like
Mhm.
I kind of like that. Like I don't know what it is. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but it works for me.
Yeah, and if anybody's, still on the fence, just a reminder that it was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, and in 1999, the British Film Institute ranked The Remains of the Day the 64th greatest British film of the 20th century. So,
Facts,
just in
people.
case anybody's still wondering if this is a good movie or not.
Matt. Okay. Well, I suppose the pick is to me. So I'm gonna do some Trevor shit right now. I'm gonna start spinning this. So this is not a romance, but it has romantic elements. And it's a film that we reviewed for catching up on cinema way early, like very early in the lifetime of the podcast. I have here in my hand a DVD, and I believe this movie is not available in 4K, although it ought to be, especially now. Um, I have The Killer from director
Mm,
John Woo in my hand. Brad, have you seen The Killer?
I have not.
Okay. Well, would you care if I spoil some details for you?
You go for it.
Okay. And there's not much, but anyway, this film is The Killer, and this is, for me personally, like one of the earliest, biggest John Woo movies that I saw. I had a neighborhood friend who had a laser disc of this movie, so I got exposed to this one before it got like widespread release on DVD and stuff. So I think I was in late middle school when I saw that. And mind you, this was when John Woo had officially moved into the American mainstream of filmmaking. Like he was doing, I think Face Off was the most recent movie he'd done when I first saw The Killer. And this, completely blows Face Off out of the water in most respects, like putting aside the John Travolta and Nicolas Cage of the matter. But in terms of like pyrotechnics and John Wooisms, this movie has it all, and does it all to an exceedingly high level of quality. It is one of my very favorite John Woo movies. But anyway, in terms of romance, this movie is about a hitman, an assassin played by Chow Yun Fat, and the opening of the movie features him having a meet cute, I guess, with a nightclub singer. It's an innocent woman, and he's on a mission, and he accidentally blinds her in the midst of performing a hit. He draws a pistol, and the muzzle flare, the powder flash from the pistol goes off directly in front of her eyeballs
Oh,
and
jeez.
blinds her for the rest of her life. And he feels really bad about it. Uh,
I
he's
would
just
hope
not too
so.
happy about it. Anyway, he after having blinded her, he continues being a hitman, but he starts spending money, like funneling money towards her and her hospital bills, and kind of being a savior to her just from a financial standpoint. Like he's a guardian to her in some respects. He's still killing people for a living, but he has a conscience and he feels real bad about having hurt this lady. Anyway, merry mishaps ensue, and she kind of gets pulled into the crossfire again in the form of this fella, a cop, I believe Tony Long, might be the actor. No, Danny Lee. Excuse me. Tony Leung is totally different story. Danny Lee plays the cop. He is the man who plays cops, in fact, in Hong Kong cinema. Um, and as is very common in a lot of John Woo films, our two leading men kind of serve as two sides of the same coin. There's a lot of duality represented in his films. There's a lot of brotherhood is a very, very, very strong and present theme in a lot of his films. And because this is a Hong Kong production, because Asian cultures are very different from American cultures, a lot of people misconstrue that kind of stuff as being homoerotic. Sometimes you could read into it that way, sometimes, but very often it's just not the case. A lot of times it is purely just brotherhood. It just manifests in a way that comes across as maybe a little foreign, a little bit more intimate than your average American viewer would be used to seeing. Um, but they both, in their own right, kind of end up becoming guardians to the blinded singer. But anyway, the whole finale of the movie kind of has all the moving parts slammed together in a big, huge shootout, and in fact involves her being caught in the crossfire as well, and him being a cop initially trying to capture Chow Yun Fat. He ends up developing a conscience and like a personal attachment to him and his plight, and ends up trying to help him as well. Anyway, it's a little bit hokey, like a lot of John Woo movies, a lot of Hong Kong movies are. Ends up being very, very melodramatic. But there's this like really amazing music cue that happens at the very end of the film where Chow Yun Fat gets his eyes shot out. He's in a shootout with the villain of the film, and he gets both his eyeballs shot out. And there's this really, really profoundly sad moment where he's crawling on the ground, and he's calling out to the woman. Like they very much love each other at this point in the movie. It's the end of the movie, and he's been seeing her like masquerading as a stranger who met her. Basically, he's adopting a new persona in order to interact with her. Like he never actually tells her that he was responsible for hurting her.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe what happens is they're like crawling towards each other and they're trying to find each other, but they're both blind and they miss. They don't actually find each other, and she's still like crawling around looking for him, but he's already dead. And it's just like very interesting imagery. Like I don't know if it's like profoundly affecting or anything, but it's like, damn, that sucks. like that's a terrible way for that romance to end. She ends up being fine. The cop ends up avenging him by being a shitty cop and shooting the bad guy after he's been arrested. Credits. But it is like the romantic elements of it are subtle, like they're underplayed. But it is kind of interesting to see him kind of. I guess the message that's kind of being conveyed is that he has the advantage of being able to pretend to be someone else around her because she never saw his face. Like she doesn't have the benefit of actually knowing who he is or what he did to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's the movie kind of saying that you can get as close to getting away with it as you can, but you actually can't. Like he almost got to have a happy life with her, but he really didn't. But yeah, The Killer's excellent. I would highly recommend giving it a look.
Yeah, I didn't know it had that angle to it, that somewhat of a romance angle. Now, would you say, because I've heard some people say that it is, at least in terms of action, John Woo's best? Would you say it is his top tier?
I'd say in terms of action design, it might be the most streamlined. Like it has very little fat on it when it comes to
Yeah.
the way the action is presented. Like, and as a result, everything has more punch to it because there's just it's streamlined. Like there's less flab, there's less extraneous motion, and scenes don't go longer than they ought to. Hard boiled in terms of just raw spectacle, just action insanity, is almost impossible to top in some respects. It's like a raid caliber action film where it's like this is in a rarefied air where the amount of shit that we're blowing up and how often we're blowing it up is uncommon. Like
Mhm.
it's a special movie in that way. But in terms of plot, characterization, pacing, Hard Boiled is I would say a very much inferior movie. But in terms of like star rating, like the pyrotechnics like put it neck and neck with The Killer. So
I might actually have been thinking of Hard Boiled now that I look it up.
I mean, they're very often spoken of in the same breath. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't, and also they're both starring Chow Yun-fat, although he's worked with John Woo many times. But those two movies are often talked about at the same time.
Have you seen the remake? I can't remember if you've ever mentioned it.
Yeah, so I did mention that the relevancy of bringing up the killer today is somewhat appropriate. I have not seen the remake, but good God, I've heard it's awful, and
Hmm.
it looks awful. It looks like dog shit, Brad. Um, I don't know if I can watch it. And what's really sad, is that John Woo directed it. I mean, I think he's done that before, maybe like remade his own movie. I know it's been done many times across cinematic history where a director remakes his own film, especially for like a different foreign market or something. There's that was it the Michael Haneke? Didn't he do that with his own
Oh
film?
yeah, yeah. Funny Games. Yep.
Funny Games, yeah, and also Ju-on, The Grudge. I believe the
Mm.
same Japanese director was also recruited for the American remake of that as well. But yeah, the American Killer from I think 2024, like very recently. Uh, fuck, that just looks so bad, Brad.
Hmm.
Like, am I wrong on this? Like, have you heard anything else about this?
No, I haven't. To be honest, I haven't heard much. And maybe I saw a trailer. I don't know. It's the kind of thing where I was a little curious just knowing John Woo directed it. Um, but I also want to ask you, what's the deal with John Woo's movies? Because I feel like they're tough to come by, at least on physical media. Like The Killer and Hard Boiled, I don't think have. Um, at least if they I think The Killer got a Blu-ray, like, 15
Long
years
time
ago,
ago.
but I think it's
Long
out of
time ago.
print, and, like, what's going on? What is John Woo is he hoarding these for himself?
I don't actually know what the deal is, but you're absolutely right. That is something worth drawing attention to. Is that his work, like his best work, is not easy to find in our region. I am fortunate that I went out of my way to pick up like Hong Kong Blu-rays and stuff. I'm kind of surprised. No, I'm not actually. I thought that was New Line for a second. In fact, here I'll put it up on the screen because we are live and we do have cameras. I thought that little white film strip there
Mm,
in the bottom corner. I thought that might be New Line. It is not. So I don't know who has the licensure for the Killer and Hard Boiled, but Dragon Dynasty I think put out the Killer ages ago on Blu-ray and DVD. Um, the DVD they put out came out after the one that I have here in my hand. This is a very old DVD. It may not even still work. Honestly, it might be rotted by now. Um, but it could be that the rights are being held by strange entities. Very unfortunate though, because basically all his best shit is just not available. Like A Better Tomorrow. Do you even know if that's available in our region, Brad?
I'm looking it up, and, the only unless it went by a different title, but, the only A Better Tomorrow I can see is one from 2010, so I don't would it have gone by a different title? Because I don't even see it.
No, as far as I know, it's always like there's a trilogy of them. He only did the first two, but
Yeah,
as far
I
as I
don't
know, that like across the planet, they're known as A Better Tomorrow.
yeah, I don't see it, available anywhere.
Yeah, so those are like some of his very most impactful, most famous films, and I don't I don't know if you can get them here. It's
Yeah.
very strange, being as he has such a sterling reputation, especially his older stuff.
Something's up. Something's up.
Sucks. I would love to have the Killer and Hard Boiled on fucking Blu-ray or 4K or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead, I have both of them on DVD. Like I've had these DVDs as long as I've had a DVD player. Basically, they've moved with
Hold
me across multiple apartments.
you gotta hold on like your stocks. You gotta hold. Don't sell yet.
Hodel gang or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck the redditors say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Killer. Unconventional romance, very subtle romance, not gushy kind of stuff. But how about you, Brad? What is your next romantic real pick?
Well, Trevor, should we get controversial here? Should we get controversial?
Do it.
Because this movie came out in theaters, as a lot of movies tend to do. and I saw it, and at the time, loved it. I loved it. I thought it was tremendous. But when I after the movie came out and as time has gone on, this movie has I don't wanna say it's been canceled, I wouldn't go that far, but, I think the director has come under fire, and some aspects of the film have come under fire as well. So it's been a while since I've seen it, so maybe it would not be as effective as when I first saw it, but when I first saw it, I loved it, and that is Blue is the Warmest Color. Speaking of softcore pornography, this one is certainly up there because I do believe, I don't know if it was released as NC-17 or it's unrated, but I saw this in college, and for those who don't know, this is a 3-hour French romance, with extremely, explicit sex scenes, and I just remember, like, being in college and kinda, like, being on really starting to get into films, and, I it was probably around the same period, it would maybe it would've been the year after, but I had just recently started going to the movies by myself. That was kind of a thing I had never done in high school, so I started going to the movies, and so, like, to say, like, "Oh, yeah, I went to the movies by myself, I saw this, 3-hour, French romance film, with, NC-17 rated," and it's just like, if you wanna sound pretentious, like, this was the movie to see. But I I really did love it, and, like, I think at the time, watching it and its 3-hour runtime, I think it absolutely justified that because I thought it did such a good job at portraying this relationship from beginning to end and actually making you feel like you were part of this relationship between these two young women, and along with the sex scenes, like I thought that was uh, a key part of that. Like it was extremely intimate. The two actresses, one of them is Leah Sadu, the other one, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her last name, but there it is for you. Both the performances are amazing, and like those graphic sex scenes, like it really does feel like you're kind of like being part of this, extremely intimate moments between this couple. So that you kind of feel extremely a part of this relationship. And when things go sour, it makes it all the more tragic, I thought. Since then, I think some stuff has come out in that the set, the director was maybe a little not like, abusive in like like a super abusive way, but like this was, I think, before intimacy coordinators and stuff. And I think Leah Sadu has come out and said that the conditions were not great, and there's been some controversy there. And then the whole thing with claiming that the sex scenes were the male gaze, that sort of thing. So it's come under fire in recent years. This movie is they're trying to bury this movie. You want and I have even more proof. This movie, this is a Criterion release, and I got it when it first came out. And it is a look at this. It is a bare bones Criterion. It's bare bones. There's no bonus features almost. And it came
Whoa.
out the year that this movie came out. And I remember that when it was announced, Criterion said, "This is like we're putting out this bare bones release," and they said a super deluxe special edition version will be coming in the future. I'm almost 100% sure that was like in their press release for this. Like they said, a super deluxe edition is coming down the line. I remember that because I actually emailed Criterion, and I'm surprised I'm not boycotting them because I emailed them and I said, I was like, listen, I love this movie. I wanna buy it. Like, do you have any timeline of when this super deluxe edition is it coming in months or years? I was just like, I wanted like, I was curious. Never got any response. So I probably should be boycotting Criterion. But, I do think that, I think the controversies came out and they kinda were like, let's just we put out the bare bones edition, that's fine. We're not gonna touch this one again." But I really do think it's a pretty incredible movie, and the one thing, like, even aside from the controversies, like, if you step away from that, the two performances in this movie are just insanely good. Like they are incredible. Um, and I think it is. I would like to watch it again. I in my mind, I would still say I love it. So, controversies be damned.
I mean, I think you and I, maybe more so than some other folks, especially on the internet, are able to compartmentalize a little bit when it comes to art.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of people who it's like, no, we're not doing that. Where it's like, if it was made by a bad person, I don't want to touch it. But to me, it's like, maybe it's a sign of weakness on my part, but I do value the art enough in
Yeah.
some cases to
Mhm.
still want to give it a shot, still take a look at it. Sounds like that movie was very impactful. Like it, maybe it hit you at just the right time, or maybe there's some stylistic element or something about it that grabbed you, resonated with you. Maybe you just like Leia Sadu. I know you do.
I mean, certainly this is where that started.
I was about to say, you're like, Leia Sadu is James Bond's wife? Yes, this makes sense to me. I agree.
I was
She
watching
should
this
be
movie.
James Bond's wife.
I was watching this movie, and as soon as she popped up on screen, I went, Who is that? Wow."
You went, hey-o.
Yeah.
Shit. I mean, we all have those movies for sure. I mean, I'm sure Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a lot of people's favorite movies for Phoebe
Yeah,
Cates.
yeah, I'm sure.
But I actually had never heard of that movie. But the
Until
way you're
just
just
now?
until just now, honestly.
Whoa.
Whoa,
Whoa.
whoa, whoa. Well, see, you got your eyes on France. I got mine on Asia. So oh,
I love the French. Look at that. Look at the longing in their
yeah.
eyes. Oh
Look,
my
let
gosh.
me give you a single here.
Look at the longing in those eyes.
The longing, the yearning, Brad.
Listen,
Oh, the yearning.
this movie, I'm not even talking about the sex scenes. I'm talking about just the movie in general. This movie is sexy, all right? And I love it. I love the love story. It's another listen, I don't want to spoil a movie, but it's another one of these bittersweet kind of things.
I mean, you
Um
made it sound like what I was about to say was the way you described it. You said it's like 3 hours long, right?
yeah.
And the way that they show the sex, the way that they show the physical intimacy between the characters, like it sounds like that's kind of the point, is that we're showing you the in betweens, we're showing you the raw details of it. So when we have these highs and lows, everything just carries more weight because you've been in it with
Mhm.
everybody.
Yep.
Like instead of implying stuff, we're just gonna have you be there for it, and it heightens things because of that. It makes it feel like it's your drama along with their drama. Sounds like a really good movie, is what it sounds like. That
Mhm.
also happens to be sexy. It can be the same thing.
Also, there's some great spaghetti eating scenes in this movie. There's multiple scenes where the main character eats spaghetti and she just like goes at it, like just huge mouthfuls of just like some of the best spaghetti eating I've ever seen.
Are we doing some innuendo with the spaghetti eating or
No,
something?
no, I don't think so. I just think she just it's just maybe there's some meaning behind it. I don't know, but she just really likes spaghetti.
Well, because I mean, like it is like an actor's favorite thing is to have a prop to play off of to convey
Yeah,
character, and watching an animal how it eats tells you a lot about that animal,
yeah.
is what they say. And I'd be curious if like maybe that was supposed to be part of it. I was actually going to ask if like what was the form like, because it sounds like you're making it sound like she's being sloppy, like she's just kind of scarfing it down,
Kinda,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
okay, because
I think it's I can't it's been a while since I've watched it, but I think it is kind of she comes from a like middle to lower class family, so she's not she's not a fine into fine dining, so she just scarfs
she
it
doesn't know
down.
what a salad fork is.
Exactly, exactly.
I don't know what a salad fork is. I was curious because my fiance has European heritage, Dutch heritage, so very different from French. But they do a lot of silverware shit that's a little over my head. Like
Mhm.
they do the thing where they don't switch hands. Like her mom, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, is always giving us shit, us Americans, shit for the way that we trade hands for our silverware.
Mm.
She's like, "Why do you do this? This is not practical." And I'm like, "God, you are so fucking Dutch." But there's that. there's the technique with the spaghetti with
Yeah.
the using the spoon and the fork and stuff, spoony forky. It goes right over my head. I don't get it.
Speaking, hang on. There's the perfect transition. This movie has a scene in Brooklyn with Saoirse Ronan. She gets a date with an Italian boy, and they have a whole scene on. They teach her how to eat spaghetti because she's going home to his family, and she doesn't. She's Irish, and she doesn't want to make a fool of herself in front of the Italian family. So they're in another great spaghetti movie and another great love story. Brooklyn, boom, another
Should have
one.
expected
Check the
Saoirse Ronan to
box.
show up tonight.
Well, it's just
Well, I know you too well at this point, Brad.
yeah.
People have tendencies, people have patterns, and I know some of yours.
Yes, my next one, I've got a Jessie Buckley romance movie on here.
I
I've
was
got
waiting. I was
Margaret
waiting.
Qualley. I've got
Yeah, she's great. They're all
Yep.
great. They're
Yep.
all great. Yeah, actually, like I said, I had not heard of that French film. Sorry, what was the title again?
Blue is the warmest color.
Blue is the warmest color.
And
Yeah,
it's
I'd not
based
heard
on
of that
a
one.
graphic novel, actually.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Very cool. But I mean, it's in the Criterion Collection. Everything you said about it makes it sound like it's a work of quality. Um, I would I would watch it. It doesn't sound like something that I would like go out of my way to watch.
Yeah.
But if I had an opportunity, or say I spun for it on the wheel, sure, I'd be excited to check it out.
I mean, it's based on a graphic novel. Maybe I should have Santino on to review.
I mean, it has sex scenes and it's based on a graphic novel. Santino's probably seen it. He probably owns it.
Yeah, I tell him, like,
Where
hey,
is that boy, by the way?
I don't know. I don't know where he's at. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe he's still banned.
he's probably banned. He's probably watching. You just spam the comments. I got banned again. It's a running gag show.
Yeah.
Like Santino gets banned every episode for spamming the comment section. Okay. Well, I suppose the pick is to me. So as I said, you have your eyes on France, Europe. I have mine on Asia. So we're going to do some more of that Asian shit, as I tend to do. Sorry, Brad.
No, I love it.
This is going to be largely familiar, but I think there's at least one thing in here that I'm going to mostly be talking about that I don't know if we have talked about together anyway, Brad. So I have here in my hand 3 Blu-rays from Hong Kong, although these have been released domestically. I just don't have them because I'm impatient. I wanted these movies ASAP. I have here the Rurouni Kenshin films. So this is actually in reverse order. So this is number 1, this is number 2, and this is number 3. This is based on a manga who, speaking of canceled peoples, I believe the author's name is Nobuhiro Watsuki. I think he is canceled. However, his art persists. There's actually currently a contemporary animated adaptation of Kenshin that's I think on Netflix right now. Like you can watch it in the US and it's airing in Japan right now. But the author, the originator of that work from the 90s and has been subsequently remade several times, I believe he has been effectively canceled. Not entirely positive on that, but I know he was accused of some bad things. Anyway, Kenshin, actually, I forget the full title of the story, but it's a Japanese samurai manga that has been adapted to animation, and these are the live action films, which I hold in the highest regard. I think these are excellent movies. They remind me a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean in some respects. From an aesthetic standpoint, there's certain elements of the griminess and the costuming that makes me think of Gore Verbinski's Pirates movies a little bit, just a little bit, and that's a
Okay.
good thing because those movies are not great from top to bottom, but there's a lot to like in a lot of those early Pirates films, and I think these share some of the same DNA. Anyway, Kenshin actually, the full title of it, which again escapes me, especially in the original Japanese, is there's a subtitle where it's called Rurouni Kenshin, which refers to like a wandering person named Kenshin. but there's a subtitle having to do with it being a Meiji era romance, so like 1800s era romance. It's baked into the title of the story. Like romance is actually supposed to be part of the story. And there's a character named Kaoru who serves as Kenshin's love interest, and it's a very, very, very Japanese, very traditional like samurai style romance where there's a lot of withholding of feeling. There's a lot of implied. There's a lot of near misses. Like, is this something you can relate to, Brad? Because it is a very common trope in Japanese storytelling and Japanese culture in general, that I can relate to very, very well, being as it was unfortunately how I tried to relate to the world and women in particular when I was a younger man. I've since gotten over it because of you know interacted with more people and been taught a few lessons over the course of my life. But the whole thing where you don't say the words, you're trying to convey the meaning without making it explicit. You're trying to get away with not saying the words. Can you relate to this at all?
Like trying to say your feelings for someone without just being
Just
blunt
just
about it, or
just saying it, just kind of
okay.
like being around a person, appreciating them, and hoping that they understand this, like without it being explicitly stated.
I can I don't know if I can relate to that, but I'm just trying to think of other Japanese movies I've seen like was that Drive My Car from a few years ago? I think that was from Japan.
It was. I've not seen it, but that was the Oscar. Uh, was it best foreign film that year?
I think it won Best
I think
Foreign Film,
so.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was nominated for Best Picture too. I feel
Yeah.
like that one maybe not like literally has that, but the relationship between the two of them, like I feel like they go through the movie without totally saying how they feel. Like I do feel like not that I've seen a ton of Japanese romance films, but the little experience I have, I can definitely see why that is, something that they would have.
It's kind of a trope and like an actual thing in the culture that there's not a lot of explicit verbalization of like conveyance of feeling. There's a lot of implied elements, and just in general across the culture, that's kind of a problem in some respects, where it's like it's very helpful to be able to express yourself, very earnestly and explicitly. And like a lot of times things aren't just not that done that way, and in story it manifests in narrative and storytelling, in the form of a lot of characters kind of doing that, like walking side by side with one another, bearing strong feelings for one another. But it takes like getting over like a monumental hurdle to actually get to the place where it comes out of their mouth in the form of explicitly stating it. Yikes! This is sounding like nice guy TM behavior, says Honest Piranha Labs. Hey, Chase Keys. Uh, yeah, I wasn't a toxic nice guy, thankfully. I was a harmless nice guy. But yeah, I'll freely admit I had a lot of lessons I had to learn to become the man I am today. um, anyway, back
Trevor,
to
you're
Kenshin.
not an incel today. We can state that for the record. Is that
I mean, I'm not sure if you can hear it on the mic, but my fiance is actually downstairs. She is real. She's not just a person that I mention on my podcast from week to week to convince people that I can relate to the female element of the species. So back to Kenshin. So I have here in my hand a really, really, really beat up DVD box set here. But it might be a little bit rare, actually. Might be kind of hard to come by because I don't know if this has ever been released again since this DVD. I have here in my hand, it's branded Samurai X Director's Cut Collection. And actually, what it is two small DVDs.
mm,
And in particular, well, it's actually two, but we have Trust and Betrayal and Reflection. I think it goes by the name Sei Solhan. Uh, this one, I believe, is the one in particular that I'm thinking of. So this is actually a prequel. It's actually a prequel to the whole goddamn story. And in fact, when it came to the live action Kenshin films, they approached things in this kind of the same order that they did with the manga, where the prequel didn't happen until very late in the game, as far as I understand. And when they did the live action movies, the prequel is actually, I think, the last movie released
Mm.
out of five movies, and actually kind of works out okay. Like it works out decently, because what they tried to do with the live action movies was they did a thing where the fourth and the fifth films, the fourth is the last chronologically the last thing that happens in the story, and the fifth is actually the first thing that happens. So you gets it it bookends the entire story. And I'm not sure if I agree with that. I feel like maybe they should have released the prequel first, because there is some direct connections to the final chapter that maybe, in terms of like character reveals and stuff, it could have benefited from having some of that stuff concealed, like having it be like, oh, that's who, like, oh, I didn't know who that person was, because I wasn't privy to that information. Anyway, this is very heavily a romantic story in a lot of respects. The prequel, that is, and it's actually about the main character. It's, now that I think about it, holy shit, Brad, on the spot, I just came up with this. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is on Her Majesty's Secret Service, um,
Okay.
in a lot of respects. You know what that means. Not everybody else listening to this or watching this is going to know what that means. But I'll just leave it at that. But it goes some interesting places. It adds additional layers to some of it, recontextualizes some of the things that happen later in the timeline, and it's a tragedy. It is a romance in that our character meets a woman, in fact gets married to her, but things don't exactly go all that well. But it has a interesting flow to it, where he's actually paired up with this woman as part of a job where they are masquerading as husband and wife, for an assassination gig, essentially. And over the course of just cohabitating, they end up actually developing feelings for each other. And merry mishaps ensue. I won't go into the details of it, but the art style, the animation of that one is very, very exceptional. The show, like the weekly show, was honestly kind of spotty at times. It was good when it needed to be good. Say that, but that's actually a feature film, and it has much higher production quality when it comes to the animation. Even the character designs are made to fit the more romantic vibe ever so slightly, and the score in particular, kind of similar to what I said about Dracula, might actually convey the tone better than anything else in it. So a bittersweet romance, like it's a tragic romance, but kind of more strongly embodies that theme across the whole franchise, like better than most other things in the franchise.
Would you say it's mainly a romance then, or would you still say it's still because the other ones you said were like kind of more action, right? Or
They are most certainly action oriented. The
okay,
romance, it it's interesting because like it's explicitly advertised as like this is part of the story. This is maybe a reason to check it out, but it's really not. But what it does have going for it, like the main story, what it does have going for it is a handful of scenes. Not the whole story, mind you. They're just like action movies for the most part. There's a couple of scenes that are very effective, actually. One of the most famous scenes is a very, very tropey thing, but done very, very well. It's a scene that you'll see in so many fucking samurai stories, but it's he has to say goodbye, and just the subtlety in how the goodbye is conveyed and how the emotionality is conveyed, and also just the aesthetic beauty. It's done under cherry blossoms. It's very tropey. It almost feels like cookie cutter kind of shit, but it's just it's played so straight down the middle that it transcends the tropiness of it, and it's just like, oh, that's just kind of good. Like I
hmm
like that. I'm glad we have that. But
yeah,
it's just a tender goodbye is actually one of the most romantic things in the whole fucking story, is him just saying, I've got a job I gotta do, I still love you, I'll be back. And she's sad about it, and they're gonna get back together, but it's like in the moment it's like, oh,
Yeah, I mean that's hot. That's
Yeah, I'll get you wet.
yeah,
Saying goodbye to a gal, telling her
yeah.
like I got a dude I got to kill. I'll
I mean
see you soon.
that does sound kind of in the vein of things I like. Like bit of a fleeting romance, bittersweet kind of thing, like
Well,
in that zone.
that's the whole thing with the character is
Yeah,
it's a very effective story, like narrative hook. Is the whole thing with the character is that he killed a lot of people, like in a time when that was warranted, and he's trying to atone for it by not killing any more people. But there's always the lingering threat, I guess you'd call it, that he has a particular set of skills and perhaps he will need to revert to his old ways, his old self.
yep,
But he has this anchor in the form of a person that he cares about, who he would like to not have to do that because he doesn't want to show that aspect of himself to that person. So it has that nice push and pull factor to it where it's like, oh, is he gonna do it now? Is he gonna go full Wolverine on somebody? It's like that's what hooks you. That's what brings you back is the promise that it could happen.
yeah. Speaking of, I mean, actually, no, this is completely unrelated, but
Eh,
let me just throw this your way. How beautiful are those skinny DVD cases that would often come in like TV season sets? Those are, I love those so much. I can think of like the Seinfeld seasons had it. I had Arrested Development. The first two seasons of that had those skinny cases. When I bought a season of television on DVD and it had those skinny cases, I was just so happy. They were just so. Ooh, I love them so much.
it's funny. I think some of the Ultraman DVDs I used to have, I had those, and a couple of bootleg Godzilla movies that I no longer have because I've since upgraded to official releases.
Hmm.
Also came in the form of those. Those were green, Brad. Like
Ooh,
whoever bootlegged those, like gave you the premium treatment. Like they
yeah,
put them
I
in
like
like
it.
green skinny cases for Godzilla. I was like, wow,
So good.
that's love, baby.
That's that's good.
Yeah, I like them too. Like I think these are some of the only ones I still have. Like these kind of skinny cases. I actually want to take a look at this disc because it probably doesn't pick up on the camera, but that case is beat to shit.
Oh yeah, no, I can't tell.
Yeah, it probably didn't convey, but
Like,
man, a lot of my DVDs are starting to go, man. It's real sad.
ooh, disc rot.
Yeah, it's not even that I live in like an area. It's not even like I have like a moisture hazard or something. It's just time. It's just
Yeah,
killing them. It sucks.
we don't want to talk. We don't want to think about that. Push that to the back of our minds.
Yeah,
That,
let's not talk about that. Let's not linger on that thought. So,
but
hey, Brad, you want to call it good here, or do you want to give us one more?
I can go one more
I could
because
go on forever, baby.
yeah, I could go on forever, baby. And this next one, I was gonna say I could go to the speed round, but I feel like this next one needs its own, um, you know, slot. Like it needs its own time on the pedestal because
Nice.
it's another controversial pick. It's not maybe not the movie, but this release I think is very controversial. And I don't know if we've ever talked about it.
Oh,
So
wow. New stuff.
I have here the film that everyone knows and loves from 2008, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Now, Trevor, do you know why this is controversial? Do you
I'm
know what
going to
I'm about
show
to
my
show you?
ignorance. I'm going to show my ignorance and say no. Actually, I don't know why. That's a David Fincher film, correct?
It is a David Fincher film, and did you know it is in the Criterion Collection?
I also didn't know that.
Well, it is in the Criterion Collection, and here's the disc. Here's the case. What
What the
the hell is this?
what the
Huh?
fuck am I looking at?
What?
It's blue,
It's
Brad.
blue.
It's blue.
This is something. This is wrong. This is not good. This is bad.
That's
But no,
fucked.
it is a legit Criterion release, and I don't know. I to be honest, I haven't done research into this because I kind of forget about it because I just tuck it in a drawer in the back of I throw it in the pantry with all our stale crackers. I try not to think about it. Because I mean, well, listen, we don't even need to talk about the movie. That doesn't matter. But the case, because I have, let's see, you can kind of see over my shoulder over here. I've got my Criterion
Yeah.
releases in their own section. Do I put this in there and ruin the aesthetic? Hell no, I do not. Now you could say that's me being a hypocrite. If I'm gonna have my own Criterion section, this is a Criterion release. It needs to go in there, but I just can't do it. I think I tried it, and I think it made me sick to my stomach. I couldn't sleep. It was just wrong. It just did not feel right. So I keep it with the other regular Blu-rays. Um, and to be honest, I remember I found this in like Walmart or something, and I saw it, and it was like when I was just kind of first getting into Criterions and like getting into like physical media in terms of like knowing that Criterion was a label and knowing that there like was more than just buying the movie. Like there was like, just different versions, different editions, that kind of thing. So it was kind of when I was really starting to get into that zone, and I saw this at Walmart, and I was like, wow, it's a Criterion release. Those are like super fancy schmancy editions. Cool. Um, and didn't even think twice about it. Didn't even think about the case. And it was after I started buying more Criterions, I said, "Hey, something's not right here." I didn't even. I maybe I today I probably wouldn't even purchase this movie like this. I would say, listen, this is a good case. This is a good example of why sometimes some movies should be purchased digitally. This Do I need this physically? I mean, I don't hate the movie, to be honest. I think it is. There's some things in it that aren't great, but I actually do like the movie. But the case is just a nightmare. It is a nightmare, and the nightmare of the case does not outweigh the positives of the movie. Now, if it was like one of my favorite movies of all time, I'd say, okay, I gotta have it on my shelf. Benjamin Button, I can stream it, I can purchase it digitally, but I already bought it, so it's not going back. But yeah, it's just strange. So that's why I had to highlight that release.
Well, thank you for that public service announcement. I wasn't aware of that. That's the only time I've ever seen that with a Criterion disc. That's well and truly fucked.
Yeah,
I
something's not
did look
right.
up on it looks like Etsy has a different like slip, but you'd still need to get, a clear plastic slightly thicker case cuz they do that too. Like Criterion's that premium that they have a different profile to their cases.
Yeah, I just can't do it because I have a rule: no custom artwork. So you have
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
as hideous as it is, this is what was decided on, and I would love to know the story. Like this should be a Netflix making of like a documentary, like a 3-part series on Netflix, how this, monstrosity came to be. Um and it's also like you can like I don't know if you can tell, but it's also all warped, and it's not
Yeah, yeah,
it's
not in
bad.
great
It's bad,
condition.
man.
Unfortunate. By the way, we have a couple comments being directed at you specifically, Brad. You can order new cases and slips from Criterion. You did email them previously, though, correct?
Yeah, about the
At the
blues,
top of
warmest
this
colors
episode,
thing.
I think
Yeah.
you mentioned that you should
And
be boycotting them because they
I
ignored you.
yeah, multiple reasons to boycott Criterion. They have ignored my calls and texts. Um that is that is interesting because I would be okay with buying regular Criterion case, but like you said, I don't think this um artwork would fit on the case.
It
Is that
would
what you
be
were
a couple
saying?
millimeters too short.
Yeah, and I think that is worse. I think that because I had almost the same issue. Let's go even deeper down this rabbit hole. I had
You
that
got them
happen
revved up.
with my Children of the Corn. This came in a blue Arrow case, and those who are in the know will know that Arrow Blu-ray cases are clear. They're clear. So imagine one blue amongst all the clear. And I said I can't do that.
Can't do
So
it.
I purchased, and this was like peak COVID. So I went online and people were freaking out and they were saying they're having manufacturing issues because of COVID. They had to switch to blue cases. We don't know if they're ever going to go back to clear. And I panicked and I went on eBay and I bought a replacement case, and it was like the only one I could find. But I bought this case, and since they have gone to clear, I haven't had that issue. But luckily, it was just like it was the exact same style case. It was just different color. So I didn't have I would not say that's custom artwork. I would say that is just, replacement case. That I'm fine with. I can sleep at night. But since they're totally different cases, this is not a Criterion case. The the sleeve would not fit, and it's just talking about it. I'm considering selling this. If anybody would like to purchase this, DM me, please.
You might get some takers.
I might.
By the way, you did have another question that I feel like you're more qualified to answer than
Oh
me.
boy.
So I'm going to throw this up on the screen for you now, Brad. Are you guys feeling about Matthew Lillard returning to Scream 7, excuse me? Do you think he is going to be the killer mastermind, or do you think he's going to be a ghost, says Scott Walker?
My theory, and I haven't looked too much into this, but my theory is that it's going to be a little bit of a Silence of the Lambs type thing. I wonder if they're going to say he lived, but he is in prison, and for whatever reason, Sydney's going to have to go visit him and pick his brain about this new killer. Could be a ghost, but I don't know. That just feels kind of lazy to me. I'm not. They already did the ghost thing with
Skeet.
Skeet, so I don't know. And that one made sense within that film. Like this one, like I don't know why Sydney or anybody would be having visions of Matthew Lillard.
No, I would imagine he's still alive somehow. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess he got a TV dropped on his head. The implication was that he was electrocuted. It wasn't so much the glass hitting his face; it was the electrical current in the TV that supposed he twitched a lot,
yeah,
and there were some buzzing sounds. That was the implication, a pretty strong one at that. But yeah, having two ghost dads, that's a little
yeah.
that's a little crazy.
Trevor, can we highlight this comment from Through the Cracks Productions,
I
where he
was about
says,
to, yes. Here
"Yes,
we go.
I." He says, "I actually saw that button release at a thrift store and specifically didn't buy it because it looked screwy on my shelf. This is my kind of guy or girl. This is my kind of guy or girl. I love this. That is 100% me. And if I was not an idiot, if I was not a dummy, this was probably 15 years ago now. I was basically a child and I just didn't know the world. My brain had not formed yet, but now I'm 100%. This is how I would approach that situation."
Yeah, no, I mean, part of curating a collection, we are not hoarders here, dear listeners and hopefully viewers. We tend to curate our collections. Like part of the deal, honestly, sometimes does come down to aesthetics. Like you want to have the shelf look nice on top of being organized, and sometimes
Absolutely.
if you got an outlier like that, like don't get me started on cases that are slightly taller or differently shaped than the ones beside them, especially if they're from different labels or something. Stuff like that. I don't have OCD, but it kind of feels like I get it every once in a while when stuff like that happens. By the way, you got another comment here from Through the Cracks. Love Criterion, but it's an
I
abomination.
love it. I love it. I love Criterion too, but we got to take them down a peg when they're wrong. We
Yeah,
got to. Nobody's perfect.
yeah. No, we both like Criterion quite a lot here, but you gotta call them out, like Brad says. Like if they fucked up, you gotta let them know they fucked up. Otherwise, they're gonna keep fucking up.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how you stop the fuck up train.
Both of the Criterions I pulled this episode were, in some ways, fuck ups, which is funny.
That's probably like subconsciously. That's probably why you picked them.
Maybe, yeah,
The people need to know.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
things to yell about. God damn it!
Yeah, but the movie's it's pretty good, but we don't need to talk about the movie. But
All right, so
that's
I
not
don't,
what we're here
Scott
for.
Walker. I don't know you as a person, but I have seen you, I believe, in our chat a few times. Why Scream? Like, why is Scream your thing? Because it seems like no matter what we're talking about, it always comes back to Scream. We're going to indulge you.
I
I
love
don't
it.
mind at all. I'm just kind of curious. Like, what's the fixation on Scream? I like them. I like the movies. In fact, I watched the most recent one just like a month ago. I think I found an afternoon to sit down and actually get up to speed. So I've seen them all. I like most of them. Three is not my favorite, but it is what it is. So Scott Walker says, I personally believe Stu is going to be the mastermind slash killer in this movie, and he's going to get his revenge on Sydney. And also, another comment from Scott Walker. Honest opinion, guys. What are you both thinking? Idea of different colored Ghostface robes. Red, you asked this last time. I've gotten this question from you before about the color of robes, and I think we were both kind of ambivalent about it. Another one from Scott says, I think the three best movies in 1993 is Free Willy, Jurassic Park, and Dennis the Menace, with my honest opinion as a 90s kid.
Trevor,
I wouldn't be able to cite mine off the top of my head, but Jurassic Park would very likely be included among those. I was 6 years old at the time, but Jurassic Park is, a personal favorite movie for a
The
lot of
Remains
us
of the
folks.
Day is from 1993, so that would be up there for me. I did send you a link, Trevor, in our private chat. Can we confirm if this is the Scott Walker we are talking to? I'm just curious. Are you a politician?
There's a distinct possibility. I just looked into it. Maybe, Brad.
Because Scott Walker, your name, I don't know, it sounded familiar, and there's this politician named Scott Walker, and that's not why I thought it was familiar. There's also an English musician, but they passed away, so I don't think you're them. But let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize we had a fan base in Wisconsin, but perhaps we do. Also, by the way, your other fan. You have a lot of fans. I don't. You we're on my show. You're the guy with the fans, Brad.
They're not fans of me. I'm just they're fans of the points I'm making that are just universal to the world.
You are generally more inflammatory than me. It's like you are much better about yelling about shit and getting worked up than I am. So maybe that's what they like about you. But
people think they're like, oh yeah, you do that for fun, and I'm like, this is not fun. This is real.
This is serious business.
This is real.
Through the Crack says it usually wouldn't bug me, but holy, it's Criterion.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I mean, you hold them to a higher standard. That's the difference. It's like the kid in school is just like, oh, Timmy, you're better than this. Like I expected more from you, Criterion.
Yep.
Scott returns, says, did you guys know in the new Jurassic Park film, Jurassic World Rebirth, the new T-Rex we see is actually Junior, the baby T-Rex from the Lost World. He's all grown up. How do you know this? Like, in what sense was this conveyed? I saw the trailer. It looks like kind of generic adventure film, although it does appear to have more in common with, say, The Lost World or Jurassic Park 3 than some of the other Jurassic Parks or Jurassic Worlds. Honest opinion, which 90s movie do you set Dennis the Menace or Free Willy? I don't know, actually. I don't
think
I've seen Speed I would put way above both of those.
Those aren't you don't have that's not the option, Trevor. It's Dennis the Menace.
Do I say Dennis the Menace or Free Willy?
Yeah.
Fuck.
I'm gonna say Free Willy. That was more in rotation when I was a child.
I mean, Dennis the Menace, of canceled things, that was the one with the Michael Jackson song, right?
I believe so.
I've seen a lot of love for Dennis the Menace in recent years. Like, that's a movie that's been like re-evaluated like in recent years. I think Kyle, actually, my regular co-host on the show, I think he likes that one too. I would probably be more prone to watch that one, especially because I like Walter Matthau. And Christopher Lloyd also, he's in there too. So I would probably be more prone to rewatch that one. Like Free Willy, the sentimentality of it, I'm not that kind of guy. Like I'd rather just watch a Home Alone ripoff or something instead. But because the color of the baby T-Rex in the Lost World looks very similar to this T-Rex, and it looks very similar to Junior, so that's why I think Junior has finally returned. It had a name. When did it get a name? I think I may have had I didn't have the toy back in the day. I had a lot of Lost World toys though back in the day. I don't think I had the baby T-Rex though.
Trevor, you need to get in the Jurassic Park forums. They are digging through this trailer with fine-tooth comb.
I mean, it is one of the biggest franchises in the world,
Yeah.
like the world over. Like Jurassic Park's footprint, excuse the expression, is vast. So I could totally see people online being completely and utterly obsessed with every frame of every Jurassic Park movie, good or bad, that has existed. Uh, Going back to Through the Cracks. Oh, come on, Trevor. You get plenty of attention in the slob chat. I do? Since when? I mean, I hang out there sometimes, but gotta give B-Rad some love.
Thank you. Thank you.
I recall even as a kid thinking Free Willy was weak, as did I. I
I
saw
want
it. I
to.
saw it because the hype train was unstoppable. It was an enormous movie at the time. I did. I think it was a rental. I think my parents rented it for us, and we didn't watch the sequels. We never watched it again. Free Willy has no special place in my heart. I'm sorry, Scott.
I want to amend my pick because I did see Free Willy
Yeah,
as a kid, but I think the one I watched more often was Free Willy 2: The Adventure Home. I think that's one we had on VHS.
that's the one with like the fire on the water, right?
I
And
think
there's
so,
like
yeah.
three whales. They did the thing where it's like you
Yeah.
either need to make the whale bigger or make more whales. That's what you do when you escalate these movies.
Maybe that's where my love of water movies came from, was watching Free Willy as a child, maybe.
Oh God, that's sad. I mean, the generic answer is Jaws. Like Jaws
Yeah,
is, where a lot of our connection to water movies comes from.
that
That, and
probably
for me
makes more
personally,
sense.
I remember staying up until 3 a.m. trying to watch a movie called The Deep. Brad, do you know this one? Have you heard this? Have you seen this?
Yeah, the title's familiar.
It's about diving. Like it's like a kind of like a heist thriller. Not a heist, maybe a heist thriller because I think that it's like morphine. There's a case of morphine or something
Mm.
at the bottom of the ocean, and people are fighting over it because they want to sell it or something. My dad fucked me up because he promised me that there was an eel in the movie, and I stayed up until 3 in the fucking morning watching this boring ass 60s or 70s diving movie on the promise that there would be a moray eel at some point in this movie. I don't remember a fucking eel, but I remember my dad promising me that there would be one, and it was a like a back-to-back telecast. They had Jaws and then The Deep, and I stayed up all fucking night trying to watch The Deep, and it was boring as sin, Brad. I think there was a gal in there that people really really liked at the time, though. That was probably the selling point of the movie, but I was like 8, so it wasn't a selling point of the movie for me. So, but the people who saw it in the 70s or whatever, that's why they went to go see it.
I mean, it's a pretty good cast. You got Robert Shaw, Nick Nolte, Eli Wallach, Louis
I was
Gossett
Brad.
Jr., Jacqueline Bisset. Is she the one? Jacqueline
That's
Bisset?
that would be it. So getting back to the comments, and why are all these comments coming like right before we are about to wrap up? You guys have shit timing. I mean, we're really glad that you're here. It's just kind of funny as all. Scott returns, says, "What I'm doing right now, I'm following the Jurassic Park timeline with the first film, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, I'm guessing 3, Jurassic World, Can Cretaceous, I'm guessing that's like Camp Cretaceous or something, Fallen Kingdom, Battle of Big Rock. Did you see Battle of Big Rock, Brad?
No, I don't
It was a short
believe.
film
Oh, okay.
that they used to promote one of the Jurassic World movies. It was cute. It was kind of neat. Chaos Theory and Dominion. So you're watching. Scott's taking it all in. We're reviewing. We're taking it all in. We're taking it for a walk. Through the Cracks. Back to use. The Deep is a neat one. Whoa, 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 whoa! There's a split timeline for Jurassic Park. News to me too. Scott returns with another query. What's your honest opinion, guys? Do you think we could ever see another Free Willy movie one day? Or another movie with Jason James Richter, the boy who plays Jesse? The actor is interested in returning.
I
uh,
mean,
that kid sucked. I'll just say that much. That kid did nothing for me when I was a kid. I imagine he would do nothing for me now as an adult.
yeah, I think Free Willy's done. I don't think there's
Yeah,
a
you're done.
demand for that franchise.
Scott also contributes. Do you guys remember a movie called The Creature, 1998? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Peter Benchley's the creature. I think it's just called Creature though. With this mutated creature, I correct, back correct. I think it's just called Creature with this mutated creature, half human, shark hybrid. It's yeah, it's dolphin shark man, but the man is a spoiler. So sorry if anybody didn't know that and cares. Craig T. Nelson. It was a TV movie in the late '90s. A lot of Peter Benchley novels were being adapted to TV movies, two-parters. The Beast. Beast was my go-to. I watched The Beast constantly when I was a kid. Creature came, I think, after, and while Stan Winston's effects for the eponymous creature were excellent. The creature is really awesome to look at. It doesn't do anything because it's a TV movie, so it can't be all that violent or anything like that. And it's a two-parter that could have easily been a one-parter. It's not very good, but I do remember being super hyped for it when it came out. And in fact, I've almost bought the Blu-ray many times. Um, Through the cracks again. I'm not sure if a Free Willy reboot is in the cards. Tragic as it may be. I'm glad from your emoji just there. It seems that you're in agreement with our take on Free Willy through the cracks production. Sorry, Scott. Just apparently don't have the same level of attachment to Free Willy as you do. So, Brad, let's use this opening to try to move into the speed round.
All right.
It seems like these folks are probably going to cut in every now and again, but we'll try our best
Hey, I
to
love
speed
it. I
round it.
love it.
I mean, I'm enjoying the shit out of this. This is actually more attention than we've ever gotten. So, thank you to anybody who's been commenting.
This has been the highlight of my month, so let's keep it going.
Okay, well, let's head into the speed round, and if people want to toss some comments, make sure to give me a poke if I miss some, Brad. Do you want to go first, or should I?
I can go first, quick. I don't have a ton more.
All right. So,
There.
folks, what we're about to do here is something we call the speed round, although traditionally it takes like 20, 30 minutes. So it's not especially expedient, but we're just going to talk about the movies that we've set aside for today's discussion and have not talked about yet. So these are the runner ups, essentially. So we're not going to go as in depth as we've been going, but you're going to get to see all the movies that we pulled off our shelves that fit the theme, romance related films in this case. But it looks like we have a couple comments before we get to it. So let's knock these out before we get to it. Scott comments. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of a female version of American Werewolf in London with the same story, but with a female actress playing the part of David? And, well, American Werewolf in Paris had a lady werewolf in it. And was it Tom Everett Scott? I liked Tom Everett Scott. I'm really, really, really surprised he didn't end up being as big as he could have been. He was kind of the second coming of Tom Hanks, and in
Yeah.
fact, worked with Tom Hanks with That Thing You Do. American Werewolf in London is great. I know a lot of people have misgivings about John Landis, but it's a fairly good movie. I like it. I
Why?
own
What did he do?
it.
I'm
Wrongful
joking. I'm
death.
joking.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know that. You know about that dead kid and that dead man and that
I'm going.
helicopter.
I'm telling I go to these parties where people are watching Blues Brothers and Animal House, and I bust the door down and say, "Do you know what he did?" I ruin everybody's fun.
Well, it's more like, do you know what that man didn't stop from happening, or do you
Yeah.
know what that man neglected to do? uh, you're welcome, boss. Oh, boss, I think I know who you are through the Cracks Productions. Uh, Sorry, I'm not familiar with your YouTube handle. If you are, in fact, who I think you are from the Red Cow Discord. Yo, so speed round. Brad, let's get to it before we get flooded with comments again.
All right.
What are your picks, your runner ups that we didn't get to yet?
I got another Leah Sadu movie. You
Big
can
fucking surprise.
you can sue me if you want, but she's a lot of great romance movies. But she's not the romantic interest in this one. I have The Lobster, which is from Yorgos Lanthimos, one of my favorite filmmakers working today. I love this movie. I think it's funny. I think it's weird, and I love the world. And I would say it is wickedly funny and a love story unlike any I've ever seen.
Accurate.
I would say,
Uh,
yeah.
Fun story. Pause for a second. The lobster is the lost episode of Catching Up on Cinema.
Ah,
Yeah, it's the lost episode. I'll make this public. We recorded an episode, Kyle, myself, and my older brother Matt, and none of them were happy with it. And they both, independent of each other, requested we not post it. And I was like, I guess I'm not posting it. So I don't remember what we slotted in instead of that, but we hastily recorded something else. My brother proposed it. We did record it. It does not exist on the internet.
Was it just like just not up to snuff, or like was like did we get into some controversial stuff or something? Like, what's the
I think the chemistry was an issue.
okay?
Kyle was not especially engaged with the material, and my brother was. So my brother had a lot of thoughts. He had a lot of unique angles that he was approaching, and like through the discussion, like kind of like he's my older brother. We're kind of similar people, so
Yeah.
he had a lot of like wild angles that he was attacking it from. That Kyle just was. He couldn't be bothered to engage with the material, so a good discussion just couldn't be had. I thought it was okay. I was ready. I edited it. It's on my hard drive, but they both said no. So I respected their wishes, and now it's dead. It's buried. It
Wow.
got old yellered. So through the cracks, by the way, contributes Max Landis may be a creep, but at least he hasn't killed several kids and a beloved character actor. True facts. Max
That's
Landis may indeed
hilarious.
be a creep. But he hadn't killed nobody, as far as I know. I would love to see another live action Scooby Doo film, says Scott. What do you guys think of the teenage werewolf movie Ginger Snaps? I think it's a pretty good story, but I would love to see a full film or a TV series. There's been talks about TV series, but no news. That's the Canadian lady werewolf movie. I've not seen it, but I've heard
Yeah.
it has a good reputation.
It's good. It's good. I would I could see that getting rebooted for sure. That's got a good enough reputation.
Yeah, I could totally see a reboot happening. I don't know about a TV show, but it seems like a well liked horror series, and
Oh
if
yeah.
anything is going to get a resurgence, it's going to be a horror franchise, and that one's well liked, so why not?
Speaking of horror, I have a horror love story. Spring, which is about Lou Taylor Pucci falls in love with a girl who is a monster.
Ex-
Um,
Poochie, what?
Lou Taylor
What the
Pucci?
fuck was that string of words just now?
You don't know Lou Taylor Pucci?
No, no.
Oh, come on. You got to know. He's been in he was in the new Evil Dead, the remake.
Oh,
He's the
Evil
guy
Dead
who
Rise.
no, the other
Oh, the
one.
remake. Oh, the remake.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
I
old
don't
new
remember
one.
anybody from that. The only thing anybody remembers from that is the blood rain and the evil gal and the
Well,
chainsaw.
I remember Lou Taylor Pucci.
Taylor Poochie.
Maybe it's
Poochie
because I
went
like
back
his
to his
name.
home planet.
Um, but no, it's good. It's very reminiscent of the Before trilogy because it's he's on vacation, he's walking around this I forget where it's at, what country, but he falls in love with a local woman there. Turns out she's a monster by night or something, and he has to deal with that. And
I've
obviously you
never
can
heard of that, but the cover art is striking. I
yeah,
like it.
it's a Draft House Films
Yeah, I was
release.
about to say I recognize their layout and also the color of the case. I have exactly one of their discs. I think it's World of Kanako,
Yeah.
which is also very good.
They even put a quote from Richard Linklater on the back, which I think is kind of funny.
Oh, one more comment before we move on. Yes, we're never getting through this speed round, apparently. You know what I find very unfair in the werewolf movie franchise is that there's not many female werewolves out there. There's more male werewolves. We need more females. What do you guys think? I think Trick or Treat is a movie you, Scott, have probably seen, probably own, and probably love. Uh, Scott continues, you know what I find the pretty interesting about Vampire Diaries is doing the weather transformation. It takes 4 to 5 hours to transform. Imagine sitting there solely transforming and chained up. That was some word soup just then.
Yeah,
I
I've
know
never
what Vampire
seen
Diaries is. I know 4 to 5 hours is a long time getting made up or whatever. I'm sure it sucks for everybody, especially Ron Perlman
yeah.
and Doug Bradley.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh Speaking of diaries, when I saw this movie, I wrote in my diary how much I loved it. I have Her, Spike Jonze's Her,
Oh,
um, which was way ahead of the curve on these AI films that we're getting nonstop nowadays. But I think this is great. I love the love story, and performances. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to see that. I never got around to it though, and I feel
Um,
like I probably missed the window.
it's still worth checking out for sure.
Okay.
This one a little underrated. Admittedly, I haven't seen it in a long time, so maybe it wouldn't hold up for me. But I liked it at the time. Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Um, Steve Carell meets Keira Knightley just as the Earth is about to be hit by an asteroid. And I just saw in the news that there's like a 3% chance that an asteroid is going to hit Earth in like 10 years. So
Oh,
made me
that's
think of
lovely.
this, made me think of this movie. And I was like, oh, yeah. But
Uh,
kind of a depressing movie, but I liked it.
Fleeting romance for the end of the world.
Yes, yes. A lot of fleeting romance. In fact, almost all of them are. This one, this isn't really a love story to be totally honest, but it is funny how used to be when you go to Walmart, you would like they put out like movies for Valentine's Day, and if you watch this with your special someone on Valentine's Day, it's probably going to end with a divorce because this is a heartbreaking movie about a marriage falling apart. And this would be the worst movie to watch on Valentine's Day, the worst. Um, but it is very good. And it's the guy Derek Cian France who did Place Beyond the Pines and some other stuff. But yeah, another really solid movie. Not really a love story necessarily, unless you count the degradation of love as love, which I guess sure I can count as well. We have La La Land,
Oh, okay.
which I actually have only seen once. I haven't watched it since it came out in theaters. But also falls into a bit of a zone of the fleeting romance, but I do love the ending. And
Scott's gonna cut in here. Sorry.
I got one. I got one more. I got one
You
more.
got one more? Okay,
And then we'll
Scott,
go to
hang
Scott.
on. Sit tight. Sit on your hands. Oh
Last
wait,
one
that's
is
me.
just
That's not Brad.
last
So
one
you
is
got me all
Groundhog Day.
flustered, Scott. What the fuck?
Groundhog Day. That's it. Boom. And that
Oh,
one actually does have a happy ending. So
with Margaret Qualley's mother or whatever.
absolutely love
Yeah.
Andy McDowell.
Yeah, Andy McDowell. And I mean, I would call that a romance. Like he's really
Yeah.
trying to make that happen,
Yep.
throughout that whole last movie. Okay, Scott, it's your moment to shine. Your moment. Not you don't get all the moments, but you get some. Honest opinion. Why do they keep making horror movies about Bigfoot? Is no right marijuana people want to hunt them down and kill them because the way they're looking horror films that betray Bigfoot.
I feel like there's not
English,
actually.
motherfucker, do you speak?
I feel like there's not actually that many Bigfoot movies. I mean, there's some, but um, like I can't think of any in recent years.
The last one that I can think of is I know Bobcat Goldthwait, or he made a good one.
Willow Creek. Yeah.
Yes, I heard that was good. I heard that was a very good Bigfoot movie. Um, there's the Sci-Fi Channel one with Lance Henriksen that is not good, but does have some good gore. Like if you just want to see a big Bigfoot monster rip people up, it delivers on that front. It's not
Yeah.
good, but it's okay enough in that respect if you're just looking for that. So not that many Bigfoot movies, but I know Red Letter Media, the guys from Wisconsin on YouTube, they did a movie called I think Demon Warp. I think that qualifies as one as well. Um, Thank you for the Lebowski quote. Through the Cracks Productions, bring some sanity to this discussion. What in God's holy name are you blathering about? Says Big Lebowski, Papa Lebowski. Scott returns with, do you guys remember the movie Wild Things with Nev Campbell? Best Campbell wants to do a sequel, and so does the director with her character Susie. What do you think? Did they not make like a direct-to-video sequel to Wild Things?
I don't know. I own Wild Things. I still haven't gotten around to watching it, so
We reviewed
I
it
can't
before
comment.
catching up on cinema. Actually, we did like a '90s erotic thriller month on catching up on cinema. I forget what we called that, but we did cover Wild Things, and in fact, I made a really fun GIF out of Kevin Bacon watching the lesbian sex scene through a camcorder. He's going like He's like, I don't know which eyes to use.
Nice.
Do I look at the
Yep.
viewfinder or do I use my eyeballs? It's hilarious.
Yeah,
Kevin
yeah.
Bacon is hilarious in that. You get to see Kevin Bacon's dong in that movie. Spoilers, if you care about that sort of thing. He does have a producer credit on that film, by the way. Just saying. He's very confident in his dong. I think the best Bigfoot movie ever made was Harry and the Hendersons and Willow Creek. So, confirmation Willow Creek is apparently a good Bigfoot movie for Bigfoot aficionados. And yes, Harry and the Hendersons is a very charming little movie, a little fun family movie with John Lithgow doing John Lithgow stuff, being a normal person for a change. He's usually better at being a crazy motherfucker, but in that one he's just kind of like domestic dad. I mean, he gets to have some tirades, some outbursts, especially when he's telling the Bigfoot to go home and all that stuff and making the kids cry. But yeah, Harry and the Hendersons is great. Kevin Peter Hall, the Predator himself, Brad was Harry and the Hendersons. The titular Harry of the Hendersons. Uh, does Through the Cracks contributes. Does Legend of Boggy Creek count as a Bigfoot flick? Do you know that one, Brad? I don't.
I do know that one. I've never seen it though. That did jump to my mind, but maybe it's not technically Bigfoot. I don't know. But I think it's a found footage film, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. And Vinegar Syndrome put out Legend of Boggy Creek 2 through their VSA line, but I have not seen either.
Well, was it Scanner Cop 2 that's the classic of all classics?
Oh yeah,
Well, I mean, Legend of Boggy Creek 2 could also be of the same caliber.
it's true.
It could be, Brad.
I've heard bad things about it, but you never know. Most people say Scanner Cop 2 is worse than Scanner Cop 1, and that's crazy to me.
What are you talking about? Scanner Cop 2 should have won the Oscar that year.
It should have. It was probably better than whatever won that year, to be honest.
It's fucking bullshit. It's rigged.
Yeah, yeah.
Scott returns with, if you guys get the chance, would you go to the actual stew house and do a live stream there one day? You misspelled
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Brad said yes. I'll say yes to it. A couple of years ago, Nev set on an article a couple of years ago. She'll be interested in returning to the Wild Things world into a sequel to the original film. Okay, Nev Campbell is interested in doing a Wild Things sequel. I don't really know why you'd want to do a sequel to that one.
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, I'm not
Move
going
on.
to spoil it for you, but Kevin Bacon's dong, don't forget that.
Yeah,
Don't forget. I'm sorry about the spoiler, Brad, about the dick. Real slick documentary style flick, says Through the Cracks, in regards to Legend of Boggy Creek. So I guess that's a positive assessment about that one. So if you're interested, Brad, maybe give it. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I would like to see it.
Trusted opinion. So, Brad, do you have more that you would like to do with the speed round?
You're up. You're up.
Oh my god, this is gonna go all night. Scott, you're a riot. Never change. I agree. Scott, you were highly entertaining. I don't know if you're a little unhinged or how much caffeine you've had tonight, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
I really hope this is the politician from Wisconsin.
That's how I'm picturing Scott Walker. Will you guys go to the Patterson Gimlin film site one day and do a live stream?
Will we? No. But would we? Yes.
Okay. Speed round for Trevor of Catching Up on Cinema. I am the host. It is my show. So I have here Little Shop of Horrors. Somewhat of a romance film, in that we have Suddenly Seymour, longing and yearning for our leading lady. I won't say much more than that, but I love this film in most respects. And in fact, we did review it for Catching Up on Cinema at one point. Now, Brad actually had guessed that I might bring these out into today's discussion, so I may as well just get them out of the way ASAP. Rocky on 4K, the ultimate knockout collection, which I upgraded to almost exclusively because the Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago director's cut of that movie is included in this. But more important, the previously unreleased director's cut of Rocky Balboa is included on this. I think for the first time ever in physical format, or any format really. Sadly, the director's cut of Rocky Balboa is essentially just reinserting the cut scene, the deleted scenes, back into the film. So it's not a true director's cut in that sense. I guess you could technically call it that, um, but it's just a longer version of it. There's a couple of deleted scenes that actually do contribute, like actually do make the movie slightly more depthful, more interesting, but it didn't need them. Anyway, Rocky and Adrian. It's a beautiful on-screen couple. It's core to the narrative of most of those films. In fact, basically the whole story takes the romance angle of their relationship and turns it into a grieving romance instead of like a living romance, like literally. But the relationship between those two characters is really beautiful and is one of the most important aspects of the characterization of Rocky and the strength of those movies. Um, Additionally, we also have Creed and Creed 2, and to a lesser degree, I guess, Creed 3. Main thing being Creed 3 is it's not not a great film in a lot of respects. Like I have mixed feelings about it, but moreover, the big problem is that Tessa Thompson just simply doesn't have very much to do in this movie. In fact, this whole movie feels truncated in a weird way. It is by far the shortest in all the Creed movies, and it just doesn't have the same energy. Like it just it feels lacking in some respect, and a lot of it does come down to kind of the really interesting and frankly quite different romance in the Creed movies as compared to the Rocky movies is just pushed so far to the side by the time you get to the third one that that aspect of the movie is a little watered down in kind of a disappointing way. Um, Through the Cracks asks, does the Creed franchise have a whole lot of romance plot? I would say not especially, but they do a really effective job of kind of speed running a relationship a little bit.
Yeah, it's there a little bit, but I would say not as prominent as the Rocky films.
No, but what I do enjoy about them is that the relationship is distinct. Like it's not just a redo of Rocky and Adrian. It's very much its own thing. It has its own tone. For fuck's sake, you actually see them in bed together and actually kind of like wanting to fuck each other. Rocky and Adrian are very chaste in the way they're represented, which is fine. It works just great in those films. But in Creed, it's just a different tone, different vibe, and the characters are wholly distinct from Rocky and Adrian. And they, like I say, it's kind of a speed run of the romance, where the first one is kind of them getting together, kind of similar to Rocky, although without the advantage of the history between Rocky and Adrian, because they knew each other before they got together, quite a lot, in fact. And then you get to Creed 2, and it turns into a family drama where it's like, oh, we are moving forward in the relationship and the dynamics are shifting. And then the third one, it's like, it is willfully pushed aside in favor of other narrative elements where it's like, we don't have room for that because we're focusing on like a brotherhood plot instead. And actually, it's a little bit of a plot point that really ought to have been explored, is kind of her character being pushed aside, like from a cultural standpoint, like having the female character, the wife, be so distant from the proceedings in the narrative is something that would have been worth confronting, but they really just don't bother. It's like, why are you not including your wife in this discussion? Like that is something that's part of being a husband and wife, I would imagine, is if you have like personal problems that cut this deep, like if you're going to include anyone in them, perhaps should be your wife. But they don't confront that. It's odd in that sense. Um, I don't recall that at all. Adrian is such a highlight of the Rocky films. Sorry, not sure exactly what detail that's alluding to, but yes, Adrian is absolutely a highlight to.
I think just the romance in general.
Gotcha. Um, so I'll keep moving here. I'll try to keep it quick. I have I believe it's a Makoto Shinkai movie, and the only one I've ever seen of his movies, Your Name. This movie got like an obscene amount of critical acclaim when it came out, such that I ended up blind buying it because I was just tired of fucking people telling me to watch it. I don't remember a fucking thing. It's really pretty, and I know it involves a lot of romance, but I'm sorry, it's a lot of people were just jerking it off left and right, calling it like the best film ever made, and
Oh
I
yeah.
was I gave it a shot. Don't in one ear out the other, unfortunately. Champagne and Bullets. I'm sure people recognize this one. This is a Vinegar Syndrome release. This goes by at least three different titles. Um, in fact, I should double check. Champagne and Bullets, but it's probably most famously known as Get Even or Get Even. It's all one word, Brad. That's why it's called Get Even. Um, and also Road to Revenge. To date, I've only watched the Champagne and Bullets cut of this, which is the final cut of it, like in Blade Runner terms, I guess. I need to watch the Get Even cut of it though, because that was the one that was reviewed for Red Letter Media, um, and it looked like a much more entertaining experience. The Champagne and Bullets version of it leans into the romance of it, and the romance is utterly embarrassing. Whereas the Get Even cut of it seems to lean more into action. So you get to see our leading man, our I think writer and director, if not only director. You get to see him throw hands more often in the Get Even cut. They wisely cut a lot of that footage from the Champagne and Bullets cut, but that's why I was here. But the Champagne and Bullets cut it's trying to be like a romance cop thriller, and it's embarrassing. It's not a movie you want to watch with a group. I'll tell you that much. Uh, Scott jumps back in to say, "What are the Assassin's Creed video game Black play do you think they could make that in some rupee and put wailing scenes in the movie the main character does in the game?" What do you got, Brad? Help me
Uh,
out here, buddy.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag, that's the pirate one. I think they could absolutely turn that into a movie if they wanted to, but let's keep continuity going and keep Michael Fassbender in the lead role.
Yeah, that's right, folks. In case you didn't remember, Michael Fassbender did in fact star in an Assassin's Creed movie. It did happen.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers it except for apparently me and Brad, but it did happen.
I never saw it, but I actually really like the director. But anyway.
Yeah, I didn't bother with it either because yeah, I don't actually I've never actually played an Assassin's Creed game before as long lived as that franchise
Ah,
is. Yeah,
I'm playing one right now.
good for you, bud. I just finished
Oh, it's
Iron
terrible. I
Meat.
hate it.
I was too busy playing Iron Meat the other day, Brad, and I just started Buckshot Roulette uh, on Steam. Through the cracks says, "What, bud?" That's what I said. That's what I said. Moving on. I think that's the first time I've said "moving on" tonight. Usually that's my placeholder. Like that's how I breathe on the mic. Say "moving on." The Killer's Game. Uh, this is a movie that Brad almost recruited me to review in the theater. I did, in fact, go see this in the theater. I paid actual money to see this. I
And then I
dragged my
said, I'm out.
fiance into the theater with me. Uh, Technically, it's a romance. Like, that's the whole center of the plot.
I like
Really,
that slipcover. Holy cow.
yeah, it's pretty. It has that spot UV texturing to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the light's getting it, but Sophia Butella and Dave Bautista are our leads, and they have a thing for each other. And he, you know, kills a lot of people for her, and she kills some people for him. Really, the only reason I needed to see this was because Scott Adkins has a very small role in this. But bonus, Drew McIntyre, the Scotsman of WWE fame, also has a small role in this, and my fiance was actually very pleased at that fact. But yeah, I have a thing. I have a collection building of every Scott Adkins movie ever. That's my sub collection. That's my side project, and because of that, it has a place on my shelf, even though it's Not a very good movie. Similarly, Dead Reckoning on DVD. Look at that cover, Brad. Look at that cover.
Very nice.
Oh
Very
yeah, that's
nice.
quality right there. This comes to us from Kung Fu Hip Hop Connection director Andrew Bartkowiak. Look him up, Brad. I don't remember this movie. I know I've seen it, but I don't
You've
remember a
showed me that
goddamn
cover
thing about it.
before.
But I'm gonna read the plot summary because it's actually kind of funny. India Isley, who is apparently from Underworld Awakening, I don't think I got that far in the franchise, stars as Tilly Gardner, a girl who's been rocked to her core by the tragic death of her parents in a plane crash a few weeks ago. She copes with the help of local cab driver Nico, who is KJ Appa from Riverdale, apparently, with whom she began a summer romance on the island of Nantucket. But what she doesn't know is that Marco, Scott Adkins, they list him as being part of the cast of Doctor Strange, by the way. That's apparently his claim to fame in the eyes of the people trying to
All
sell
right.
us this movie. The man who sabotaged her parents' plane is on his way to Nantucket to set another terrifying scheme into motion. Can she uncover his dark secret and gather her wits to stop him in time? From the director of Romeo Must Die, Exit Wounds, and Doom comes an intense and tightly wound thriller with twists that will keep you in suspense until the final frame. So it's a terrorist thriller and a teen romance drama in one with Scott Adkins. That's the shit I have. These are
Right
the
up your
movies I
alley.
collect. Um, Comments again. Brad, you're back in the game. Scott says, "Do you think they'll use the whaling in the movie or not?"
I think
In
if they
regards
make
to the Assassin's Creed movie,
I think if they make the movie based on Black Flag, I think they will use the whaling. I think they would have to.
it's a big enough part of the game.
I think yeah.
Okay. Scott also contributes Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I mean, sorry. I live all the way in Melbourne, Australia. He's from Melbourne.
Nice.
Very nice. That's kind of cool. Welcome to the show, Scott. Glad to have you here. Honestly, like sincerely. That cover looks absolutely awful. Yes, it does. Thank you for pointing that out. You're correct, sir. Hiyo. Uh, some would say the movie itself, I guess, would say it's the greatest love story ever. The Princess Bride. Very good film. Rob Reiner, Criterion Collection, 4K. Gift from my soon-to-be brother-in-law. Titanic. Recently introduced this to the fiance, Jim Cameron. Kind of a big deal. Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. The romance with, I think the character's name is Andrea. Kind of a big deal. Kind of core to the plot. Also, kind of on Her Majesty's Secret Service again. Seems to be a thing. We have got more comments, so we'll bounce back to that. So, Through the Cracks contributes. Oh no, he directed Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. Run, run far away. Andrew Bartkowiak, The Kung Fu Hip Hop Connection. Yes, he is a man who brings terror along the lands. Scott comes back with, remember when the Time is Submersible disaster happened 2 years ago now? The planning to make a movie about it. Do you think of me a good idea or don't think the families is to be okay with it? That's the one that the Elon Musk guy called the one guy Geppetto or whatever about or something.
I don't remember that part of it, but
I
I'm
think that is.
assuming
I think that's the same incident.
I'm assuming it is. The only thing
Who's
they
the Thai? I think was it the Thai kids in the cave? They did make a movie about that.
no. No, I think he's talking
Oh, the
about the
submersible
submarine.
disaster. The billionaire that got blowed up.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, yeah,
billionaire
yeah.
that got blowed up. Yeah, I know.
I do remember what you're talking about now that okay. But no, this is different
They
than that.
did make a movie about the kids though. I do
Yes,
remember that. That had
yes.
a big cast as well. But the
Yeah.
submersible disaster. I mean, would you have to make a comedy about it? Like a morbid, dark comedy?
I think they should make a reality show about the son who was going to Blink-182 concerts while this was all going on. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, I think it was the one guy's stepson. He was posting on Instagram. He's like, please pray for my dad. We're so scared. But then in his next post, it was videos of him moshing out at Blink-182 the night. Like
Uh,
he was like traveling around the country following Blink-182.
that's a bad look. Yikes.
Yeah.
Like you need to have a solid string of consistent grief posts or
Yeah.
something before you before you cut to concert footage. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's
I'll have to.
awful. Okay. Back on track. The Addams Family. Gomez and Morticia. It's like, especially early in my life, this representation of like a passionate, lustful romance. Maybe one of the first instances I was exposed to, and goddamn, the relationship between these two is unique. It's special, and it's very, very, very passionate. I love it. Scott is back. No, I mean, remember 2 years ago when the Titan submersible disaster happened 2 years ago when it employed in the Titanic? I mean, and that planning to make a movie, do you think the families would be okay? I don't know. Moving on. I have Deadpool and Deadpool 2, which technically kind of romance films in their own respect. I don't remember actually if it's spoken in the films, but the very core to the narrative, like there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of color that covers it all. But if you like really distill it down, it's there. Like it's actually kind of neat. It's all but discarded by the time you get to that third one. But that Deadpool and Wolverine is doing something else. The Adventures of Robin Hood. This is one of the oldest movies I saw when I was a youngster, and the Maid Marian and Robin Hood. It's a classic romance. It's a classic pairing. It was kind of a big deal movie for me when I was a little kid. I'll never forget that one. Edward Scissorhands, some goth shit for you. My Big Fat Greek Wedding. This is the only rom-com I think I have on my shelf, and I only have it on DVD. I don't even know if it exists on Blu-ray. But this is a very special movie to me in that I think it's very good. And also, I saw this movie in the theater with my grandma, who's still alive, but I've been to a movie theater with her maybe twice in my entire life. So going with like the family and the extended family to see anything is something I'll remember forever. And this was one of the few movies that we did that with, and we
That's
all
cool.
really enjoyed it. It's kind of a big deal. Back to the comments because they're coming in. The death of his family was evidently also a small thing in regards to the submersible disaster.
Because I already laughed at this, so that's why I'm not laughing now. But that's very funny because all the small things, the Blink-182 song.
Yeah, when it comes
good.
to
That was when I read that I laughed. That was good.
I'm glad we have somebody like a cultural ambassador for popular music of the past couple of decades, because unfortunately I don't have that merit badge. So Brad, thank you for getting the joke that completely would have gone right over my head. It employed the Titanic? What kind of rates does it pull? Oh wait, I read that in Scott's voice. I'm sorry, through the cracks. That I reserved that voice for Scott. Nothing better than Errol Flynn. Kyle, my regular co-host on Catching Up on Cinema, we both have man boners for Errol Flynn. We both think he's a drunk, crazy bastard, and would love to ingest more of his work because we've loved him in everything we've seen him in. We did Captain Blood a couple years ago, I think. We did like a black and white theme month, and that was great. Errol Flynn, he had the juice. He had the shit. He had the goods. Almost done, folks. Almost done. Mismatched Couples. This is a very strange packaging. It has a windowed slipcase, Brad. I'm only doing this because I've never seen this before.
Yeah,
seen
I
this?
kind of like it. It's kind of cool.
It's distinct, and also it has a horizontal poster on the back. Mismatched Couples. This is one of Donnie Yen's very earliest movies, and also this is a caricature of Yuen Wu Ping. The two of them had a working relationship. He basically found Donnie Yen in a lot of respects. This was the beginning of that working relationship for the most part. This is a breakdancing movie in the tradition of, say, Breakin'. that also incorporates martial arts choreography. It's a comedy more so than an action movie. There's a couple of fights in the whole movie, but for the most part, Donnie Yen is a b-boy in this movie, and it's a teen break drama, like break dancing drama. Excuse me, it's getting late. Um, Very silly movie. I would highly recommend you look up the first 3 minutes of this movie, just so you can see Donnie Yen breakdance in public and fuck up somebody's car with his breakdancing. It's kind of funny. Uh, Seahawk is great too. Thank you for that contribution. Seahawk was considered. That was another one that we were going to cover for our event month. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'll let you know when we get to it. Um, and I think that's it for me. Although it's a live stream, so I have to bring up the goon.
Yeah, as we got partway through this episode, I'm like, I know Goon's gonna show up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got to bring up the goon. So, folks, if you're not aware, this is a running gag. We can't do a Tales from the Shelf without me bringing up Goon at some point, just because I love Goon. The sequel's okay, but the original, no, the original Goon, that's where it's at. Goon is the shit, and I'm not even Canadian, and I don't even watch hockey. I just like watching people punch each other on film, and Goon
there you
provides.
go.
And it's basically Rocky in a lot of respects. It is its own thing. I think it's legitimately funny, and the sequel, like I said, is not terrible. It's not on the same level as the original, the OG Goon, but I love Goon, and I will bring it up every opportunity.
Yep.
And it very much has like a kind of a goofy take on the Rocky and Adrian pairing, where imagine Adrian is very slutty and not a good person, but Rocky loves her anyway. That's kind of the dynamic. Allison Pill plays the Adrian figure in it, and she meets our hero already in a committed relationship. May even I don't think she's married, but she's got like a long term boyfriend, and she hooks up with the main character, and then for the remainder of the film is like regretting doing that, but still kind of like thinks he's so sweet that she can't quite let him go, and he is puppy dog sweet, so they hang in there, and eventually she dumps her boyfriend and ends up with him. uh, so yeah, we got a goon in, Brad. We did it. We got
I knew it'd show up eventually.
it had to. I mean, it's goon, baby. So yeah, that I guess draws to a close our conversation for the day. So thanks for joining me, Brad. This was a long one, but the interaction with the chat was unexpected, but very,
Yeah,
very, very welcome.
this was great. Yeah, this was a fun one.
Yeah. So yeah, this was Romantic Reels. We were talking about romance films all today, and I don't think I really pulled any actual romance films out for the discussion. But hey, we got
There was
there.
a few there. There was a few.
Yeah, you can qualify them. But so now that we're all wrapped up, hey Brad, before we go, would you care to let our listeners and viewers, all seven of them, wow, that's exceptional numbers for us,
Let's keep going. Let's just
we,
keep going. I got
all
more
night
rom.
long? I mean,
No, no,
shit, you
no,
want to talk more Oscar stuff?
no, 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 no.
We did that last time.
Yeah, yeah.
So before you go, Brad, please, by all means, let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you and your very awesome podcast.
Well, thank you, Trevor. It is the Cinema Speak podcast. So just go on iTunes or Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. You'll find us there. We are on Twitter at the Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak podcast, and I've been getting a little better lately about posting on there. So it's more than a post every 6 months now. So that's good. And we're also on YouTube as Cinema Speak, and you can just find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
All right. Thank you for the vindication there, by the way, through the Cracks Productions. Um, yeah, I have noticed you're posting a bit more, Brad. I guess all you need to do is have more egregiously bad theater experiences to report to the public about,
My pain is
and
also my gain.
tag the theater proprietors in.
Yes, go check out my post about the horrific. If you think this Benjamin Button case is horrific, you got to see what it looked like when I saw Presence in theaters. Steven Soderbergh's Presence. Oh my gosh, brutal.
Yeah,
Go check it out.
you should look it up, folks. Brad posted photos of it. The framing, the mat or something was just completely wrong, where the film was being projected like Was it like on the curtains?
Yeah, it was like the retractable curtains that would, rise up or down or whatever, and it was like, yeah, literally a quarter to a third of the frame was on the curtains.
Yeah, such that Brad was actually questioning, like, it is a Soderbergh. He does wild shit. He experiments. This is a thing he does. Like, is this what it's
Is this
supposed to
intentional?
be?
Is this
Is it
commentary on
supposed to be
something?
fucked? Is the movie Fubar?
Yeah.
Is this intentional? But yeah, it's nice to see you posting stuff, Brad.
Thank
Always.
you,
And
thank you.
also, I sincerely hope that you consider doing a live stream or something for the Oscars, just because you care so much, you have so much fun with it. It'd be kind of
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, I'll consider it, I'll look into it.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to hearing about it. But as for myself, the show is called Catching Up on Cinema. You're all watching and or listening to it anyway, so you already know that. I'm not really active on the social medias, but I do have a Twitter at Catching Cinema, and I do have an Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema. You can try to hit me up at either of those. Maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. Um, and yeah, we're basically available on every podcasting platform you can imagine. I'm active in the Red Cow Arcade and Entertainment Discord. I'm an editor. I'm a slob. That's my official job title. I am one of the slobs who works for Frankie and EJ. And, I'm available in the Discord if anybody wants to poke me there. I try to be good about replies and, contributing to the community and all that. But yeah, catching up on cinema. Check us out. And last comment here from Through the Cracks says, lost a bit of the frame at my screening of Presence 2. Wow. So
Something's up here.
something's up. Somebody has a hate boner for Soderbergh or something. Someone's got it out for him. But yeah, that being said, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a blast. And we'll catch you.